And it is 4-1 Red Sox. Swing and a high fly ball, right center field. It could go. Noel at the wall. It is gone. Onto the porch in right field for Aaron Judge. Easy power out of the bat of the Yankee captain. Swung on, hit high, deep down the right field line. Back it goes. Upper deck. Have a seat. Gone.
Wallner hits this ball a ton. High in the air and deep to right. It's a Wally ball. Home run, Matt Wallner. 3-run shot, and the Twins lead 8-0.
Well, I think you have to give a lot of credit to all three guys. I mean, they really battled. They competed. A lot of credit to Jalen and Bodie as well. Like they I think we have really really good quarterback play. But I think Dylan's a special talent. He's got a great arm. He's worked really hard at his timing with his feet. He's protected the ball. He's aggressive in the right ways. So we're excited to see him play. He's still a rookie. There's a lot of things he has to learn, but I think each day he'll be a little bit better than the last day, and excited for him. And then if the opportunity arises for Heinrich and Danny as well.
Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. What's up, DB?
Hi.
How are you today?
Good.
You doing all right?
Yes.
Just one-word answers today?
No, I was just thinking to myself, what's our telephone number? It's 888-638-4876.
That is the telephone number.
I know, but I had to think to myself, but you were asking me a question at the same time. So I was like, I'm going to give you as minimal information as possible so I could stay on the directive that I had in my head.
I'm finding out what the phone number is.
It's way too much. You didn't even ask all that, did you? You just were like,
no, I'm glad. I like to peek behind the curtain.
You're just for once trying to make me feel better about myself, right? You're like, yeah, I didn't ask all that. Because you would probably give me that answer, and I would be thinking that in my head, but I would placate you as well.
Well,
I'd be like, oh, thanks for sharing.
That's how partnerships work sometimes.
Is it?
I mean, you'd be sarcastic about it, and I know what you were thinking.
Absolutely not. I mean, I am serious. Nothing says serious like ODB.
Like ODB.
Yeah. One of my kiddos yesterday said something that I may take with me to the grave. And every bad day that I have with you and the
players or actual children,
rest of the free world, I'm going to use. No, as a player.
Okay. Well, you said kiddo, so I wanted to clarify.
Well, fudge. He's like 17.
No, I understand they're kids, but I didn't know if it was like one of your actual children.
No, they don't say anything nice to me.
That's not true.
We were coming off a very critical time, right?
Okay.
Where you're doing some install and you're getting ready for week 1, and it's kind of the poopy days of camp. And
yeah, we're like 9 days out.
So the last couple of days,
you guys are a week out. Yeah.
Had a few really good meetings, like reestablish our pillars, our culture. Brought the players in the other day and had a couple mini meltdowns.
For the players or coaches?
Coaches.
Okay.
And
it's important to clarify. You never know.
I mean, full disclosure, we're a little spoiled, right? Like,
you've had it good for a minute.
Yeah, really good leadership, and
yeah,
there's always incumbents at the quarterback spot, and whatever, right? Yeah. He goes, man, he said there are smart coaches, and there are cool coaches, and then there's you, Coach B. I said, oh, player blank.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that. That's really nice. And in typical cynical fashion was, I'm walking off and he runs up behind me and in my ear, he goes, but stay in the moment.
See, if it were me,
oh, this ought to be good.
If I had heard that, if I was receiving that, I'd have been like, and you're telling me I'm not either cool or smart. I'm just there.
Oh man, that was funny.
So I'm actually glad you brought that up.
Why?
About establishing your pillars, not the other stuff.
Oh,
I mean, that's interesting still, but
pillars,
pillars like exteriors where we're on the stage right now.
I like it. PE, baby.
But the
physical education,
that's a different thing.
Stickler. Oh, the heat is on, and we saw Haktua, Baker Mayfield, and who else?
I
think I should just go with TT.
Tua Tagovailoa?
Yes. Or do you just want me to say Tua?
You can do whatever you want.
Can I?
Like T.I., you can do whatever you like.
Like T.I.
I like old T.I., yeah.
What's the difference between old T.I. and new T.I.?
Well, the new songs aren't as good.
I haven't really listened to music lately.
I just catch them every once in a while. I'm like, meh, that one's not for me.
You say meh?
Sometimes.
Meh. No, that's a word you use in script, not.
So when I use it out loud, I don't.
Meh.
The M's not on there. It's more like a eh.
Okay. It's like Uruguay.
Like Uruguay. Yeah, be careful here.
That's a Blade
DJ
Yu-Gi-Oh moment.
Uyungalele.
Can you say your other running back's name, Toafili?
I try not to.
Well, you got a tandem. You better learn both their names.
Yeah.
Those guys can tote the rock.
They're going to have to this year because I still don't think DJ is very good.
Wow.
He is. I mean, he's fine. He is what he is.
You're on this quarterback thing, aren't you?
Well, I mean, when you've got a guy show you who he is for 4 years, I'm not going to all expect him to turn him into like a unicorn. That's what I'm going to ask our guy, Matt.
Why is that your frame of reference? Have you ever seen a unicorn?
No, and I have never seen DJ Uyunglele be special at quarterback either. So that's kind of the point.
Is that a metaphor?
Like,
Shane, which one uses like or as? Is that a simile?
That's a simile. Metaphor is just a direct comparison.
Yeah, whatever. I was getting clarity.
Like I go.
I don't need an example. Por ejemplo. Cierra en la boca, por favor.
It's like keep it in your head.
No.
I don't know.
Boca's mouth, right?
See?
I didn't catch the other part.
Cierra en la boca.
Sierra and love. Something in the mouth.
Close your mouth.
Oh. I haven't taken Spanish in a minute.
Cállate.
You give me some Latin to translate, I got you. Maybe a little Greek. I'm not great at Greek though. Alphabet's confusing. You ever seen Greek letters? They're weird.
Why were you excited that I brought up pillars?
Because I actually think it's an interesting. I think you have an interesting perspective on this because you've talked about this before with going from one of the things that you wish you could have gone back and got going from 95 to 96 was the leadership that you kind of just assumed would be there and nobody went and got it. Right? Is that a fair way to put it?
Yeah. And keep in mind, this is a guy
coming off a ton of success.
This was a guy, and this is also coming from a guy that had some accomplishments in college, but perhaps my favorite of all was being voted a captain.
Yeah.
So I am talking about the standard in which I should be helping set.
Yes, 100%. Like you have a very unique perspective on that. And it was, you've mentioned this before, whether it was, I think you mentioned whether it was the Peters or Wistrom.
When Jason said he wished he would have been. Yeah,
yes.
There were lots of things. Okay, go ahead. I think, okay, go.
That they would have gone and been more vocal earlier to establish or reestablish that standard. It's easy when you're coming off of a lot of success to assume the standard just stays there.
Right.
And that's kind of the position you guys are in at Westside this year. You're obviously coming off of a really good run. A lot of pieces have changed, especially at critical spots like quarterback. Obviously, Teddy's gone, Caleb's gone. Like you guys have had to
man, Bo Ryan, RJ. Yeah.
You've had to turn over some really important spots, both from a talent standpoint, but more importantly, maybe from a leadership standpoint. And so I guess my question would be like, how does what you saw happen to your team in college impact how you handle this now, coming off of a strangely similar position?
Yeah, like a lot. I asked our trainer yesterday, I said, hey, Angela, I said, give me a vibe on last year's camp to this year's camp. And she said something interesting. She thought about it for a second and she said, last year was a lot more like cool, which is not what I thought she was going to say. She said
that's an interesting.
She said this year it's a little more loud and a little more angry. We haven't seen near the guys in the training room either. So it calmed me down a little bit because I was thinking, yeah, it was kind of a been there, done that group
last year.
Yeah. And did we always pay attention to who's on the field, who's not on the field? Or did we make assumptions as coaches because we felt like, oh, you know what, they could be pretty good? maybe such and such is coming out late, or why are they still in the training room, or it's 3:25 and we need to be at pre-practice, right? Maybe we just assume not wasn't poor, but her saying that made me think about that. And so,
well, when you think people have something handled, you tend to be a little less like dialed in on making sure it gets handled
on the macro, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. So this year, it was kind of a wake-up call for us because, of course, like I typically do, I ran and told Coach Samaji the thoughts, and maybe that was a different vantage point for us, because when you're talking about like the evolution of leadership based off the Will Howard thing yesterday you asked me about, and leadership in general, sometimes it's a different type of leadership you need from year to year.
Yeah, depending on the what your team's like.
But you do need you do need leadership.
Yes,
but it can
look different.
It may look different.
Some guys are vocal, some guys are lead by example, some guys are kind of rah, some guys are kind of get in you, some guys are like encouragers.
Yes, which is
like that's just.
And if she would have said that to me before, was it Tuesdays?
The cool versus angry thing?
Yeah, but if she'd have said this before Monday and Tuesday, then our meeting, we may have approached it differently. But we still went back to like the pillars. Like we didn't make it about a specific thing or compare and contrast. We just went back to our 3 pillars, and because the players put that together. So when I hear it's probably like the number 1 or 1A reason when I pay attention to what's going on with good teams, and I always look to see how quickly players sound like the coach and all those other little things that don't have anything to do with actual play.
Yeah, but they're little indicators.
Like that's why I'm so interested in it, because usually that can give me
press conference guy.
Huge.
Yeah.
Because usually it can give me an insight to how people think or what the pulse of the team is. Not necessarily who, but what. Right? For like this Nebraska team, like the leadership probably comes in a way. Like, what are some adjectives that you would describe the attributes that Coach Rule wants in a football team?
I would say accountable.
Okay, so probably the leadership on the team would have to be guys that show up every day.
Yeah.
Okay, give me another one.
Well, so that one I'd probably call consistent.
Okay.
I would want consistent and accountable.
Okay.
I would assume those.
So they're going to gravitate towards players that do it every day.
And can do the same thing at the same level every day, right? So
what else do you hear?
Like effort.
Okay, so you want guys that you're going to gravitate towards guys that do things hard
at a certain level, like a certain effort level
all the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Effort, consistency, accountability. I would say
there's a sneaky one.
Teaching.
Okay, so you want guys that pay attention to detail,
and then
can receive information and
then re-disseminate that information to other guys.
Okay. There's a sneaky one I think is pretty good, and actually the football account just put out something about it.
What is it?
Resiliency.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they want folks that can hang in there, or have either been through it.
Talk about endure
and enduring,
yes.
right, and come out the back end. So when you're looking at what they want the pulse of this team to be in terms of leadership, look for those traits in those guys. That's how you'll get the answer of who they'll gravitate towards.
What's interesting about that, though, and I think coaches, players, commentators, I think we all make this mistake sometimes, is we look at what we name 5 things there for Nebraska.
Sure, yeah.
We look at those 5. Let's say those are their 5 pillars. I don't know. There's maybe they have 10, maybe they have 2. I don't know. But let's say those are their 5 pillars. We assume that those pillars look a certain way. And I think when you get, you talk about the different types of leadership, I think when you really get somewhere is when you can identify, okay, it's kind of like how they used to teach you to bat as a baseball player, right? It's like, hey, I don't care what your stance looks like. I don't care what your hands are doing pre-pitch. As long as you get to point A, B, and then C during the course of the delivery to get into your swing, doesn't matter. As long as you hit the checkpoints, doesn't matter how you get there, doesn't matter what it looks like, right? And I think sometimes we get a little too rigid in what we think about in terms of what upholding those pillars looks like. And again, for different teams, and even for the same team in different position groups or different points of the season, you're going to need that to look a little differently, and different guys will kind of embody those things in a way that's more useful to the team than at other points in the season or with other teams. And I think that's like, it's a lot more fluid. We talked about this yesterday, a lot more fluid than I think people give it credit for in order to be successful over the course of a season. Like, a season is not a singular unit. There's a million different little things that happen throughout the season, right? Starting from all the way back in spring to conditioning to fall camp to game prep to conference play to playoffs to whatever, right? Like all of those and a million different things in between that I'm not even mentioning, right? All those different things require or can require a different type of leader.
Yeah. It's and I look at that and I say, okay, what do I think? What's Nebraska trying to plant? Okay. That's one thing. Then I look at teams that have consistency of success. And I always try to ask myself, what are some intangibles that I think these successful teams have been exuding? Right? Like, how does it fit in with what I hear at Nebraska? Resiliency or competitiveness or keep showing up or any of those things. So I looked within the conference and I said, oh, shoot. What you just said, and I didn't know what you were going to say. I just was gleaning the information. I'm like, oh, man, that sounds like Iowa.
Yep.
I was like, oh, shoot, that sounds like Michigan. Oh, man, we're doing that. That kind of sounds like Georgia.
Yeah. Which we don't give the talented teams credit for that very often.
No, we don't, because
they're like, oh, well, if we had 5 stars.
Even they have peers.
Yeah. Like Georgia and Alabama and Ohio State are all peers.
Like what's the difference between LSU and Georgia?
Though the pillars, probably.
Right.
Like, it's not talent.
Right. Like,
it's definitely not talent.
So even amongst the
the elites, the upper crust of the talent of the world.
What's the difference between Ohio State and Michigan right now?
I mean, Ohio State does recruit at a higher level than Michigan does.
Yeah. So what,
but Michigan beats them, right? So you look at and you go, okay.
How
is this lesser talent team beating Ohio State consistently?
So that's why
and then you go to the pillars.
That's why I think that stuff matters, and that's why I'm a big.
How does Iowa beat anybody? I mean, let's be honest.
It's
like, if we're being real,
it's incredible.
They don't recruit at a high level. They recruit at a specific level.
It's
right.
Yeah.
But if you're just looking at I think that's the thing. And speaking of Iowa, Kirk Ferentz is suspended for a game. If you haven't heard.
Yeah, that's a set. Yeah.
But
and what took so long?
It's been 2 years.
Like, I see, that kind of bugs me. Even fine, like, people can, get them suspended. It's fine.
It's one game, 2 years later against Illinois State. Like, who cares?
Right.
Like, what?
But I do want to know, like, how did we get here? Yeah. Like, what? And it's not even a pound of flesh. It's like, it just seemed like, why does that get the eye roll? Probably because of how it was handled.
Yeah. Also, because, like, we see this every year with every player that enters the transfer portal. They enter one day, the next day there's mutual interest between the team. And then it's like, okay, so you think Cade Magner is the only guy that got tampered with?
That's what I'm saying.
Like, what are we doing?
Right, like, really?
It doesn't raise my blood pressure at all.
It's like a non-starter.
Yeah, like, what are we even doing?
I
would love if we didn't tamper with people that are still at schools. But it's not like Cade McNamara and Iowa were the only one. So how did we get to this point?
So you know what was trending last night? And Coach Rule talked about it. And Shane, if you have the clip queued up, did you hear the Arkansas defensive coordinator talking about sign stealing?
No, I heard Rule talk about sign stealing. I didn't hear the Arkansas guy.
Yeah. So, like, all of a sudden the last 2 days, this has, like, been a thing.
Yeah. Because Rule was talking about it with the sideline switch.
And maybe it's like, communication in the helmets, which, by the way, we have to get to, because I think one sneaky thing that I like about Nebraska is them taking their time with who's going to receive the information and who's going to give it. Because I'm just telling you, sure as I'm sitting here, that stuff matters. who's in the booth, who's the coach, who's doing the talking,
Who's in whose ear?
who's in whose ear.
Mhm.
Like that, it is so. Every stop I've been at, it has been something that has been strategically thought out.
So let me ask you this, because
You want to stay on this or go back?
I'll stay on this because I have a question about that.
Okay.
We heard last night on on Coach Rule's Coach's Show with Greg Sharp that it's going to be Marcus Satterfield in Dylan Rayola's ear.
Mm.
Do you think there's a chance? Was it always just going to be Satterfield because he's a play caller, or do you think there's a chance that if it was a different starting quarterback, it'd be a different voice in his ear? Just for the way like they receive information versus the way they give information.
Wow. Good question. Probably wouldn't have mattered.
Okay.
But I do like the thought, because that 100% matters.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes I've been in the booth, sometimes I haven't.
Yeah.
As my career has gone on, I've been in the booth a lot less.
Mm-hmm.
One particular stop, we tried it in the booth and didn't like it for a multitude of reasons, so I came back down. Like, I don't want people to like this communication thing
Mm-hmm.
is probably more important than we give it credit for.
Especially with a freshman quarterback.
It doesn't matter. They're not used to it.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Like,
with the earpiece thing.
Yeah, you're just not.
I meant communication in general.
You're just not used to it. So who's giving and who's receiving the information has to have certain traits.
Yeah.
And I like Coach White, like, well, who's going to be the guy? Like, am I playing to my strengths if it's me? Do I want it to be somebody else? Do I want it to be Rob? And sometimes people will look at that and they're like, well, how do you not know? In my head, I'm like, take all the time you need.
Yeah.
Practice it.
Yeah.
Rehearse it.
Try it with different people.
I'm glad you guys have been doing this for X amount of weeks.
Yeah. Just
one detail that they're checking off. Because believe me.
Well, they did it last fall or last summer or spring.
It's critical.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make me nervous that they were experimenting so late in the game, because I'm just telling you, you have to be able to be concise, speak the same language. It can't hurt you on the sidelines if that's what you're doing. If you're strong in some other area,
but takes you away from something else.
Yeah, right.
Well,
so you have to figure that out,
especially at quarterback, right? Like, let's just say it was Danny Kaelin. Like, Danny Kaelin probably needs different information from a different type of voice than Dylan Raiola does. Right. So maybe Satterfield's capable of both. I don't know. But that's why I asked the question, because
that's legit. Like,
different quarterbacks need different things depending on their personality, their development, where they're at.
And how do you figure out who needs it on defense?
Yeah, that's harder, honestly.
Is it the guy that's uber talented and just needs a little bit of coaching up on the finer points, or is it the guy that's really, really good on the finer points, but you're wasting it on him because he knows everything anyway?
Unless that's the guy that can disseminate it best to the rest of the defense.
Is that guy a communicator?
That's it's a good question.
That's why you have to figure that stuff out.
Coming up next, we'll set up the show and let you know what we've got coming up. Nebraska named a starting quarterback. I don't know if you heard.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll play this first ball game. We'll be out of the sun while our opponent's in the sun for a little bit longer. Certainly last year with the sign stealing and all that, it was pronounced. Not letting people see you, not having the officials on your sideline marking the chains. I mean, there's a lot of advantages to being on the traditional home sideline. Traditionally the home side is the press box side. So grateful that we were able to do that.
Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DBM Ravi Lulla here at the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. Coming up on the show today, we've got Brian Edwards, our Vegas insider, at 8:45, where we can talk about actual football games that are happening this weekend.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. Coming up at 9, we'll talk to Michael Bruntz from Husker 24/7. See if there's anything new and popping in Bruntz's world.
There's a lot going on.
Well, maybe. There might be.
Yeah.
Coming up at 9:30, we'll bet on it, presented by Warhorse Sportsbook. At 9:45, we will talk to Matt Baker, who covers college football, including the Florida State Seminoles for the Tampa Bay Times. Talk about the opening game, week 0 of the college football season with Matt.
I'm going to bet on it that you'll have anxiety by 11-12 on Saturday.
It's cute that you think that my anxiety ever goes away.
You take the under.
That's adorable.
Wow. It said adorable. It's too early for all that.
It's never too early to be adorable, DB.
Just threw up a little bit in my mouth. Cute.
What's wrong with that?
It's a little weird.
I mean, you don't want to throw up in your mouth. That's gross.
It's kind of weird.
It's not great. You don't want to do that.
No.
So
Stop using words like adorable.
it's adorbs. I have this problem, DB.
You have lots.
Yeah, I do.
You have lots.
It like when you tell me not to say something, I immediately want to say it.
Yeah, I know. It's a very Ravi thing to do.
I think it's a symptom of my joke Tourette's where I just can't help myself.
Yeah.
I've been getting back into Ally McBeal lately too. It's funny.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I've never seen Ally McBeal.
There's a character on there. She's
Is it Allie?
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
That's the only character I know.
She suffers from Tourette's.
Yeah, I don't have real Tourette's, which is a real thing, and I just have joke.
One of my good buddies does.
Yeah?
Yeah, he's fantastic.
I've met a few people. It's like there's like some varying degrees.
Yeah.
It's not what people always think.
Yeah. So with my man TJ, it's more physical.
Like the tics.
Yeah.
Than
the
verbal.
Auditory.
Yeah. It's interesting for sure. Mine is not to make light of it. It's just the only way I know how to describe.
I don't take it that way.
Well, just anybody else out there,
Yeah, I feel bad that we have to do that, but I understand.
I do like to. Well, so the reason I do it personally is because every once in a while people make diabetes jokes, and usually they're referring to the other kind. But I don't love it.
There's a diabetes joke.
If people if you have so much like, oh, you have like a bunch of sugar on a plate or something, and be like, oh man, you're gonna have with diabetes. It's like, yeah, that's not how that works. It's not how that works at all. I didn't get this because I had too much candy one Halloween. That's not how this happens.
Wow. I don't even recognize what we're doing.
Wow.
Happy late birthday to Shane, by the way. I meant to say it on air yesterday.
How'd we forget?
Well, yeah, we're bad friends. Maybe that might be it.
We didn't say it one time.
I know. I meant to. I thought about it like every segment, and it just never. To be fair, though, that's how most of my rundown goes too. Is I think about saying it every segment. We don't get to it. But happy birthday to Shane.
Shane,
thank you.
Can I say what number it is?
He gets kind of squirrely about
I just feel lucky that I have the same birthday as our guy Will Pickering on the.
It's true. It was Will's birthday yesterday.
Yeah,
too.
I'm
it was
just
Drew's birthday.
Yeah,
Wait, how do you celebrate? By benching 880 or?
What did he do the other day? He did 300 something.
I don't know. Probably 2,220 pounds.
That'd be a heavy bench press.
Yeah,
that'd be a big one.
Shane, what did you do? Did you give yourself a cake?
No.
Is that Jess?
I think so.
Did you go buy some exceptional Little Debbie's?
No.
Did you hang out with your brother?
No.
Did you go to?
I did that on the weekend.
Did you go to your neighbor's house? Did they bring you a Little Debbie snack cake?
No.
No zebra cake? No.
I do like a zebra cake.
No.
They're not as good as the Christmas trees.
No
though.
ho-ho. No. What else is there?
You ever had the like Little Debbie Christmas trees?
Yes.
They're elite.
No, they're not. What did you give yourself a special TV dinner?
No, I went out to eat with some friends over at Tasty Pizza.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. That's they were buying, so I'm like, okay, I can handle that.
Wow.
Well, happy birthday, Shane.
Yeah, I ain't gonna knock the hustle. There's a lot in there.
What'd you order, Shane?
When I walked in, it was like,
why the f is Shane walking in there?
You know what I said to him?
What?
So the DJ can't spin. I guess not.
Did you just give yourself extra pepperonis, or what'd you do?
Yeah, what's your go-to pizza order, Shane?
I just had the pepperoni there. I know the bacon Gouda is good there, but I just wanted something light and easy and just something.
Nothing says light like pepperoni pizza.
Since it was on their bill, did you get a bigger one so you could eat it for a couple of days?
No, just the regular size one.
Yeah.
Okay. You got to game the system a little bit. Be like, I need a big pizza. Oh, I didn't. My eyes are big in my stomach. I take the rest home. Then you're eating for a couple days.
My buddy took me out to eat a couple of weeks ago, and I got everything fish. Like I did not want to take advantage of the situation.
Yeah,
and the fish. Oh, it was fantastic though.
What kind of fish you get?
Halibut.
I like halibut.
Oh, it's incredible.
It's weird.
It was incredible, and the whole thing sequentially was seafood.
Mm.
So I went with the calamari,
Oh, I love calamari.
Then the scallops, and then the halibut. It was sensational.
Yeah.
And then I looked over, and he got like, was it the porterhouse? It was something big. And I looked at it, and I was like, oh, that'd be good.
You know what I do sometimes?
That was the night I ate off his plate.
You know what I do sometimes if I'm like taking somebody out, and I know people think like that where they're like, hey, I'm not going to take advantage of the situation or whatever. I will purposely order something like, even if I don't necessarily want it, that's on the higher end of the menu so they know like it's okay to order what they want.
So like, for example, if you were taking your brother out?
Well, I'm trying to like, I was more thinking about my buddy Evan in Champaign. We went out while I was over there. So I'm like, you know, what are you doing? You all right?
No.
You gonna be okay?
You seem very hurt right now.
You can mention my age, by the way. I mean, I
Yeah,
I have no problem being 35.
I almost said it.
I did
It's
too.
cool because people guess.
Yeah.
Because there's only one guy in the local media that's constantly lying about his age, and he's done that for like 15 years, and nobody's quite figures it out.
Yeah.
But
I did because the numbers didn't add up.
about
one day,
it
and I was like,
around, you know, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. About every Thanksgiving around then, just ask him. It'd be a lot different than it was the year before.
well, in case somebody's wondering, I'm 37.
Yeah,
That's the right number.
Shane and I are in the close neighborhoods.
Well, Travis says 35. You sound like 20. So
That's true. I do think people have no idea
But
how
I
old
do.
you are.
Well, full disclosure, though, I think one of Travis's gifts is exhortation. Like I think he says nice things. He encourages.
Yeah, just like me.
Travis does. How about no?
The look you gave me.
How about no?
DB, I'm so nice to you. Just not in front of people.
This dude's incredible.
TK says gas can. Does he lie about his age?
No.
Not that I'm aware of.
He just had a birthday too.
Did he?
Yeah, he did.
Are you the same day?
I don't think so.
He might be a day before you.
Yeah.
He's not on the same day with you and Will.
No. So happy birthday to him too.
To a gas can?
Yeah, to the gas can.
Belated. Happy belated
Like
birthday.
oil can Boyd?
Like gas can Callahan.
Yeah, I know. I was doing a baseball thing.
It's always about the Red Sox with you, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Always. Didn't he also play for the Expos?
Knock it off, all right? Yeah, old school. Yeah.
Oil can Boyd?
Yeah.
You know why I know that?
They gave away a lot of good players.
Yeah, Pedro Martinez, Randy Johnson, Marquise Grissom, Larry Walker.
The Hawk, Andre Dawson.
A lot of good players.
Gary
on that team.
Carter.
You'll go back to like 94 Expos when their season got canceled. That team was stacked.
Yeah, they were legit.
That team was
I don't know how they
loaded.
were going to pay everybody, but
Was there like a Tim Wallach on that team?
yeah. I wouldn't put him in there.
No, but he was good. He was a good ball player.
It's okay. I mean, just him and Tommy Herr, I guess. I mean, really?
Gary Carter?
Tim Raines.
The Rock. You're a big Tim Raines guy, aren't
Yeah,
you?
he was my guy.
Yeah.
I mean, be honest. You're surprised I knew that many early 90s Expos.
That's pretty good.
I mean, you know.
It's pretty good.
Well, you know I knew my guy Pedro.
Of course you
That's
did.
my guy.
Yeah.
He was there a little bit longer, though, until we freed him from the constraints of Canada.
You freed him?
Yeah. He was, he didn't want to hang out in Montreal anymore.
You, Frederick Douglass, and Abraham Lincoln.
Always more of a Harriet Tubman guy myself, but that's TV. I'm Ravi Lulla.
Hey, did they announce a starter in Lincoln?
I think they did. Maybe we'll talk about it next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Yeah, you watch UTEP's offense. They're really fun. They're fun to watch. They're out there today and they're lining up to 4 receivers on one side, a receiver over here. They're lining up to 2 tackles lined up way out here. And I kind of looked at him. I said, it's a little different than getting ready for the Jets, huh? And he laughed. But I think what you see, you see a spark in him. You see a renewed energy in him. When you're in the NFL, you're coaching. When you're here, you're teaching, you're training, you're developing players. And so I think that's his natural character. And I think I see a really good synergy between him and Tony. And, I'm anxious to see how it all works out.
Wrapping up hour number 1 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior Stage. If you're headed into work, make sure you have your seatbelt fastened. I know DB and I can be a little distracting, but make sure you don't forget to make it click. Wearing your seatbelt prevents injuries and saves lives, but only if worn properly. Make it click. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. What's up?
Nothing.
You're looking at me all weird.
I wanted to say something, but I'm going to refrain.
I think you should.
Kind of stay on topic
I think
here.
you should say it. What do you want to say?
Nah, I'm going to go see my guy over at his nutrition place. I had a question.
Yeah.
I don't think you can help me, and I don't want to hear your mouth either. I'll just go see Jason.
You can ask me off air. I'm very knowledgeable. People forget.
No one forgets. Shane, am I in the stream now?
Yes.
Do you feel better?
I felt great all day today.
Did Sasha say something to you, or did you figure that out on your own?
I've known about it for a minute or two.
Yeah, okay. I'm back now.
Guess who's back? Shane's back.
The whole stream thing is tricky to me.
Not a big swimmer or what?
Well, why would you say that?
Well, streams, swimming. No.
I don't mind the water, contrary to.
Oh, just asking.
Okay. Exactly. Bet that guy can swim. Jeez. Plus,
he's got good proportions for it. He's got the long arms.
FTR, I wouldn't pick a stream.
No.
I would pick like a pool.
Yeah.
Or even the ocean, which I've been in several times.
Yeah, I don't do closed off bodies of water that are like not like pools. Like I don't do lakes, I don't do rivers, streams. I'm not about that life.
Yeah.
No. Or I'll go shallow in the ocean or a pool.
Oh, you'll go shallow, all right.
Well, you know what they say. I'm like Bradley Cooper. We're in the shallows now. Did you know Nebraska named a starting quarterback yesterday?
I did.
It's Dylan Raiola.
Was that a better news dump than a one-game meaningless suspension in Iowa City? Or
I mean,
that was so stupid.
It is really dumb. I
just shook my head. But anyway.
I mean, it's, probably the most inevitable feeling announcement that we've had for a while here.
Yeah. I mean, I still get it. And you're going to be like, weird. You're defending Nebraska, slow playing the quarterback spot.
No, I think it's okay to let it play out.
Yeah.
I thought there was a chance we may not find out until we got the depth chart.
Yeah. And I figured, maybe it wasn't so much about the one after a while as much as it was about 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
So that's the part I'm going to be interested in.
I do think that's an interesting dynamic
because he kept saying with the other guys, he kept referring to H2 and Danny.
Mm-hmm. Hasn't brought up Jalen a ton,
right?
Which I think, and you brought this up, and I think it's a good point earlier in the week.
Ooh, I don't know about that. Was it what I say?
That you think if they had their druthers, they'd prefer to have like a Jalen as the 2.
Yeah.
So that they can use Harburg other places. Mm-hmm. And so that you don't have to change the offense.
I could be wrong.
Right. But I would tend to agree. But I also don't know what that looks like.
Yes, yeah. Is you capable of stepping in and winning games too?
Right. Because they think Harburg is.
Again, when was the last time we had a starting quarterback start every game of the season?
So I think Armstrong started every game one of his years, but he didn't finish every game. So that matters too, right? I mean, he got hurt early, and I think a couple of them in, I want to say like his junior year, and didn't finish, but he did start. And so you're definitely going to need, I would assume you're going to need multiple quarterbacks. Coach Rule said that the whole time.
So I think the next evolution for this is, because now you're paring down the offense. You're already game planning. You're thinking about, okay, what are my pet plays? What do we do well? All of that is the stuff that you expect naturally. Mm-hmm. What you don't expect is, and why, and this is that's why you can't always, people can make you dumber, right? And people have their jokes like, duh, and they named a starting quarterback. And, we'll do that stupid stuff locally. Mm-hmm. But I think part of the design is you want to slow down the process of distractions.
Okay.
So some of the distractions will now be the national attention that it's going to garner in terms of interview requests and Zooms and media appearances and things like that, right? Because why we joke about it here lightly, I think strategically, while you're trying to develop quarterback depth and keep a competitive environment, which I do think is part of it. I don't think that's coach speak.
I do want to touch on, but continue.
But I also think you want to slow down the off the field stuff that isn't really football related, because that's a whole nother.
Yeah, it's a whole other thing.
That's a whole nother entity.
Yeah, it's another variable.
Which is what I was talking about on Betting Bites yesterday. Like the mental hurdles and the mental stamina that you need to play a role of significance at any sport of significance is very, very, very much undersold.
Well, we see it all the time.
Very much undersold.
When a guy gets popular seemingly overnight or gets successful seemingly overnight, and then they've got, the commercials. Or remember with Baker Mayfield when he was in all the commercials, he was in the Hulu commercials. We're like, oh, man, he got distracted. And maybe he did, maybe he didn't. but you just see the volume of stuff that there is either opportunities for or has to be done.
Look what happened.
That wasn't there like the day before.
And you never know when it's going to hit. Like, look what happened with Shannon Sharp.
Mhm.
Shannon Sharp had been popular before.
Yeah, and for a while.
He's a Hall of Famer.
He navigated being really good in the NFL. He navigated being
but
popular on TV for a long time.
But then there was this next succession with Club Shay Shay and national attention
for kind of a different way
after the Cat Williams thing. And then there was this stretch.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a seasoned, savvy,
that guy's been doing this for a living.
Veteran.
And doesn't have to go play football on top of it.
So, like, it can happen incrementally at different stages. We've seen it with, like, young upstart coaches.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a certain way for a while, and it's like you're flying under the radar. Then success happens, and it's like
kind of gets on top of you in a hurry.
It can happen in a hurry.
Yeah, like you're keeping your head above water. You're keeping your head above water. You're keeping your head above water. Then all of a sudden, boom, you're below the surface
You
line.
get more variables to deal with.
Yeah.
So I think managing that will be part of it.
Yeah, for Dylan. So you brought up the competitive atmosphere, which I think is important because it's something that I've wanted to. I wanted to talk about this the other day when we were on the discussion about second string mentality versus first string mentality and kind of what that requires.
Yeah, don't understand. I went back and listened to that.
Yeah.
So we're still thinking like twos.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, he said it almost like that was a dirty word.
Yeah. Well, I think that's how I took it.
And I think that's how he thinks about it.
That's how I assumed he meant that it was a pejorative.
And those guys that are in that situation can't look at it like that.
Mm-hmm.
They have to see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
The bigger picture is it's a mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Am I secondary? Am I really second class?
Am I second string because I'm not as good, or am I second string because you can only play so many players?
Yeah, right.
Because he's talked about that a lot yesterday. Right?
I watched
the wide receivers.
Went back. Like his body language, his delivery. Mm-hmm. He wasn't talking to us.
No, 100%.
Was not talking to us.
That was one of those, like, for the people in the room comments for sure.
Yeah.
But, and I think he kind of, I thought he was reiterating it last night when he was talking about guys that.
Oh, you like that?
I did, where he's talking about, like, hey, we've got really good guys. They're just not all going to be able to play.
No.
Right? You have to look at yourself as a guy that is just as good. You have to prove to yourself that you're just as good and that you're only second string because of a numbers game.
So remember yesterday, I thought go back and check that out. That's kind of deep, but kind of not. When we're talking about needing your name heard, not needing your name heard, what that means when you're watching yourself on film. And I talked about it again in Binning Bites, but I say all that to say, like, what do your pillars?
Mm-hmm.
What does that dictate? Like, what does that say to you? And then how do you pit that against how you're going to work every day?
Yeah.
Like, if it's, hey, stay in the moment. Hey, am I staying in the moment? Is it, hey, I belong, winning, tackling that first bear?
Mm-hmm. Am I good enough to be here?
Am I good enough to be here? Is it that?
Yeah.
Is it showing up every day? Like, how does what I'm doing fit against what is always permeated when I'm here every day?
Mm-hmm.
That's the game within the game.
Yeah.
And a lot of times this is crazy. It has nothing to do with your physical attributes. It's mental wherewithal and stamina. It is being alert of what's going on around me. Where do I fit in this puzzle?
Because the assumption,
as my man Jay Foreman said to me,
the assumption has to be, right, if you're there, you meet a certain minimum physical qualification to be there, right? Like, if you're James Williams, it doesn't matter if they found you at a camp or they recruited you or whatever else, right?
Well, you just look at Coach Rule and he said, "You're here, aren't you?"
Yeah. Like, you have to assume if you're there, you meet the physical thresholds to be there.
Yeah.
And now it's about everything else, right? I do want to talk about that kind of spirit of competition in the quarterback room specifically, with Dylan Raiola being named the starter. I'm interested in that dynamic because we talk a lot about how competition can make you better, but I'm curious about that, and I know you've got some experience there as well. So we'll get to that as we kick off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Yeah, well, I worry about it too. I don't want to get fired because the AD doesn't know me, doesn't want me, but I might like it here. But Troy's a winner. He's the right guy at the right time. This is a time where critical. We can't make any decisions right now based upon anything else other than one thing. What's the best thing for the future of the University of Nebraska? Husker athletics, and in my case, Husker football. It can't be any agenda. It can't be, well, this person wants this person wants that. We used to do this. These people want us to do that. It's got to be, and that's a lonely place to be. You have to have great conviction to do what you think is right, because sometimes you have to disappoint people. And the great thing about Troy is he's got conviction. He's really smart. People all across the country told me how lucky I am to work with him, and I can see that right away.
Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DBM Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, where you can come see us a week from tomorrow for our live breakfast show.
Come say hello.
Come be friends with me and DB. Get some breakfast?
Don't overdo it.
That's fair.
Okay.
Come sit.
Knock it off.
Come sit at a respectful distance away from me and DB.
You can do what you want to do. I like everybody. Chances are there's going to be some good bacon.
You can get some breakfast. You can maybe get some breakfast cocktails if you're in the mood for that. If that's
Why
how
are you
you're
always
feeling on Friday.
soliciting cocktails?
Because you can have them. We had some people last time we did this. People were like, "Oh, can we get
Amazing Dan is kind of bummed because this is one of the first times ever he's not.
He won't be here.
I always want to say support me because I'm the common denominator in the last 10 years, but I guess it's support us.
Well, and you both got the Steelers thing going too, you know.
Yeah. He put something on my timeline though that I think screwed up
your algorithm.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
Dude, I have like 15 Chuck Berry things on my Twitter now.
I saw that.
No, I'm dead serious.
That's funny.
And now I'm getting Sam Cooks, and I'm like, I want to tell X, I'm like, hey, I like these guys. I do. I love music. I love music,
but I don't want it.
But it's flooding my For Yous.
You gotta.
So if I put like Elvis on your timeline, that'll screw it
I
up.
don't. First of all, I don't know who Elvis is,
Elvis.
but don't put that,
like in the Chipmunks.
Don't put that guy on my timeline.
I'm gonna put the Beatles on your timeline too.
Maybe Johnny Cash.
Dude, let it be.
Oh yeah, Johnny Cash.
Dude, I don't walk the line. I draw the line. All right.
Got a burning ring of fire. Like me and Indy.
Or more like Usher.
Make sure you get to eventbrite.com, search for Hurrdat Sports Radio to reserve your seats and come hang out with me and DB next Friday. Presented by EP Foundation Repair, as all 4 breakfasts will be this year.
How about my man Kyle's?
Who?
Kyle Z.
Who?
Just another statistician helping your boy out. Little HBO, he helping a brother out. 2017 was the last time a starting quarterback started every game. He did get knocked out in one of those games and didn't finish.
Yeah, that'd be Armstrong, right? 17.
Good job, Kyle's.
Am I right? Is it Armstrong 17?
Not to be confused with. Hey, no. 2017?
Yeah, it was the last year before Adrian.
I thought TA was correct. Okay. I thought TA was 20.
He was basically the whole Riley era.
Yeah.
The last year of Bo and then the whole Riley era.
Pretty overlooked.
TA?
Go look at his statistics.
No, they're prolific.
Jeez.
I think we didn't love how it looked all the time, and so we kind of picked on him a little bit.
I do remember going to work like 1 out of every 5 days and thinking, if somebody says YOLO to me one more time, I'm going to lose my mind.
YOLO ball.
But I do remember
that was a thing, though. I mean,
I do clearly remember being super upset with him after Iowa at home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but like,
2016 was his last year.
I know it wasn't crazy.
Who played in 2017?
But,
who was the one-off? That was Tulane. The Tulane guy. The transfer.
Oh, pick 6.
Yeah.
The
guy that everybody loved in shorts.
Yeah, pick 6.
Tanner Lee.
Yeah.
Tanner Lee. There we go.
I was about to say, you almost see that's where, and I'm mad at myself for your lousy delivery because you come across as though you know. So I was gonna ride with it, even though in my soul,
deep down in your soul,
it didn't.
You know who his numbers look a lot like?
It didn't feel right.
DJ Uiagalelei. They do.
Why does everything have to go? I'm so sick of you and RP. Why does everything have to come back to FSU?
I'm just saying. We were talking about it earlier.
They do play this weekend.
My
man WD3 said, well, they kicking onside in Ireland. Can I just say this now that it's over?
Yeah, let's do it.
I would be pissed every day that we let one thing that happened in a game become the narrative of a season and a few years. I couldn't, but because the coach and the athlete in me was like, we cannot be that fragile, but we were.
I was going to say you're not frustrated that people talked about it. You're frustrated.
Yes, I am. Yes, I was.
Okay, because I was frustrated that they were actually that fragile.
Yeah, I got frustrated that we let one half in Colorado derail a season.
Yeah,
like it can't be.
You can't be that fragile.
No,
you'll never win anything.
And so I'm like, man, if I have to hear this one more time, and people would be like, my boys would be like, man, the truth will set you free, man. Just embrace it. Enjoy. I said, no, listen, because is that funny? That I had some anguish? Is that funny?
No, it's funny that your boys are like, hey, the truth will set you free. That's what I was laughing about.
Yeah, they're stupid too. I'm like, no, and I'm like that, where I think if you say something enough, like we speak it into existence, and sometimes it's to the negative. Like we should have moved off of that. but it became a thing for like multiple weeks in a row. And then
we, the media, we, the fans, or we, the team?
Everybody, because
Okay.
the team ate it.
So this is a chicken or an egg question for me.
No, it's not.
No, it is.
No, it's not. It's an individual. Okay, go.
So
I feel like
did we keep talking about it because it was a real thing with the team, or did it become a real thing with the team because we were talking about it?
That's a beautiful question.
Thank you, Coach.
He's not telling you the truth. I feel like you control what you can control. So if you need to zip it, right? Like I'm. So the chicken or the WD3 is on a roll. He called him DJ Ukulele. Knock it off, Walter. Don't leave it to chance with somebody else. Stop you. Right? Like, oh, I'm just saying it. They believe it. Well, you go first.
So here's my question though. If you
go first.
If as doing this job, if you genuinely believe that this thing affected the team, then
I don't know if it did or not.
No, but that's why I asked if it's a chicken or an egg thing. Because if you think it genuinely,
I know we added something to the fire to keep it going that we didn't need to add. That's what I know.
If you think it genuinely impacted the team, if you're sitting here with the headset on doing this job and you genuinely think it impacted the team past that game, first of all, it clearly impacted that game. If you think it impacted, I think so.
Okay.
I didn't think they had the ability to mentally recover after that.
Did you know that going in? Or did it
at the moment I thought so. Like in real time when it happened?
I don't believe you.
I really did.
I don't believe
because we'd seen 3 years up to that point of one thing kind of causing this team to self-destruct.
Okay.
We had a history of it at that point. And so maybe that's a fan thing, but it seemed like it was a player thing as well.
Okay.
So if you genuinely
losers lose, is that what you're thinking?
I think there was a mental fragility, like you said. Like if you have seen people crumble after something goes wrong for 3 years, then when something goes wrong, you expect them to crumble, right? We hadn't seen them overcome that at any point, really. And so when it happens, you're like, oh, God, that seems like it's going to be a thing that's going to bother this specific team.
So do you know why I think because I'm okay, I'm listening.
Mm-hmm.
You do realize, though, when I say control what you can control, that goes for the team too.
Right.
So you had a bad play. You had bad decision making.
Mm-hmm.
You still caved.
They still had the lead when it happened. They still had the lead after the drive.
Right.
Well, I understand that.
And that was their only win of the season.
Yep. That's a bad football team you played.
They were awful.
Yep.
So
one thing should not derail you in that game, especially.
So what's good for the goose is good for the gander, though, in what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying you control what you can control as the guy that keeps spewing this onside kick thing, this onside kick thing, this butt of the jokes thing. You control that. And they should have been able to stay in the moment, too, and say, all right, man, let's get this back. We flubbed up.
Sure.
Right? So my thing to the chicken or the egg is you be a better you and let them be a better them, and then everybody will just be better.
Which I get.
That's my, because again, if you're in the solutions business, that's the easiest way for conflict resolution.
But here's my question:
it's not well, they shouldn't listen to me, or well, it happened, didn't it? Or
so I guess this kind of goes back to like what is. I guess what is your obligation as somebody who does this for a living, or even if you're a fan, right? And you're observing something that you think is occurring, that this team crumbles after they hit some adversity. I guess why shouldn't you talk about it?
No, you can, but do you at some point they just are who they are. The cause wasn't the cause.
Sure.
It was just sad that it kept coming up. Like that team.
So are you saying like that would have been something with that team if it wasn't the onside kick?
You want me to,
yeah,
easy. It wasn't the onside kick.
Mm-hmm.
That was a bad team that they lost to.
Mm-hmm.
That was a bad team that was playing.
Mm-hmm.
Don't make it about the onside kick because you create the boogeyman. It still was their only win of the season.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they should have won regardless of the onside kick.
Regardless. So quietly we gave them an out psychologically just to pile on, when the fact of the matter is they just were poorly coached. Like, it wasn't a good football team. So it wasn't the magic of not getting the onside kick didn't all of a sudden derail that team.
So I think I get what you're saying. Like, because the way I thought about it after the initial kind of like what the ever loving F is going on here was.
Did you say that real time?
Yeah, I did.
I feel like we're getting a little Tim Johnson here.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah. I always explain this to you. I don't like calling people the L word.
Okay.
When I feel you're fibbing.
Yeah.
So, again, Tim Johnson was a manager that lost his job
with
the Blue Jays for not telling the truth.
Do you mean did I say it in real time then or just now?
Then.
Oh, no.
Okay.
I thought you meant like, did you actually just say that?
Because we act like we thought that then.
No. I remember thinking at the time that not getting it and the call in that spot could be one of the things that causes this team to crumble, just because I have gotten pretty good at identifying those over the course of 3 or 4 years.
It wasn't the fact the guys were going to get.
But hold on. But I can identify that and feel that way in real time and still recognize that if it wasn't the onside kick because of the makeup of this team, it would have been something else.
Okay.
Right? Like we had this this discussion. You go all the way back to freshman year Adrian, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's the Akron game that gets canceled, and people used to use that as the boogeyman of being like, oh, well, if they'd gotten to play Akron before they had to play Colorado, then it would have been different, whatever, right? It wouldn't have started 0-6. Or if the Colorado guy hadn't twisted Adrian's foot and done X, Y, and Z. And you're talking early in the era there, right? So we weren't thinking the same way that we did at Northwestern or with Northwestern in the onside kick in Ireland. But you go back in retrospect and you go, okay, if it hadn't been the Akron game getting canceled, if it hadn't been Adrian getting his foot twisted, if it hadn't been the onside kick, if it hadn't been Cam Taylor Britt fielding the kickoff weirdly in the whatever, right? Like we forget about that one.
I don't.
Right, because you have a returners thing. But if it hadn't been any one of those individual things, it just would have been something else, because that's how this team was.
Okay, so let's fast forward to 2024 and why this is relevant.
Okay.
Right? Because people could be thinking, man, why
we're rehashing the past?
So this is what I think the staff's greatest hurdle is.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why we didn't like chasing the chasing three thing. Mm-hmm. This is why we can't really handle like outward criticism or saying the quiet part out loud. Or if you're somebody that loves when you say the quiet part out loud and you're like, yeah, why didn't we do that before?
Mm-hmm.
It's all the same thing. It's about ownership. So if at the time HCSF would have just said, hey, that's on me.
Mm-hmm.
I own it. Let's move on. Yada, yada, yada. We would have felt differently. If anytime in the moment somebody owns something in the position of leadership to absorb,
mm-hmm.
I think it's going to have the desired outcome. So what Coach Rule and this staff is trying to do is they're trying to delineate or shake that, or they're going to own what they own for them.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of that stuff don't put on them.
Yeah.
So the more that they keep having to talk about that, we have to decide, or the players have to decide, or when we're looking at, well, where is this going in its totality? How much is too much to be bringing up all the time? Right?
Yeah, that's a fair question.
How much is too much to be bringing it up all the time? You used it with turnovers a couple years ago. How many times can you bring up turnovers before?
Yeah, it's like diminishing returns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But then there's also the point in you that likes to take things head on, where you'll say, hey, man, say the quiet part out loud. You know what the difference
is? And if you can't handle the mental rigor of being talked about turnovers, then maybe this isn't right for you.
It's probably wrong for you.
Yeah, this probably isn't right for you.
So to land the goddamn plane is, while you're controlling what you're controlling, just remember,
mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if it's the fan, if it's the coach, or if it's the player. The fundamental difference between an excuse
mm-hmm.
and an explanation is ownership.
Mm-hmm.
So the more we talk about playing a role in the outcome of how things play out as an individual,
mm-hmm.
the better we'll be. That's why you hear it all the time. If Nebraska tricks it off against Maryland late in the game, it ain't Ireland's fault.
No.
It's not the boogeyman's fault. It's not the we can't have nice things fault. You know what it is? It's get your ass back and cover 3 and play the third. Use a timeout. Make a better play call. Situationally, be better in the moment.
Make a better throw.
So you know how you arrive at that quicker? So we don't have to talk about it? Is in the moment, ask yourself this very simple question. What could I have done differently as an individual to change the result of what happened? The more you can do that, I don't care if you're at Apple or Mutual or ConAgra or Hurrdat, what could I have done differently to change the outcome? If we could just say that quickly and process real time. Hey, listen, man, my house is in disarray. Instead of blaming her or him, what could I have done differently to keep this from happening? And you're going to call it self-awareness real time because that's really what it is. But I think everybody's not always capable when you talk about a generic term like self-awareness of how to process real time, but everybody's capable of saying, what could I have done differently? Everyone is capable of doing that. How am I perpetuating this madness and what could I do differently? So that's why you hear it all the time with the staff. They're not chasing a boogeyman. They're teaching you to be accountable real time. Real time. It's not speaking it into existence to the negative. It's teaching you how to own real time to the positive. Fine. You don't like the smash concept we called against Maryland because the week before we say this. Coach Rule didn't answer that question in the press conference last year when he said, well, remember last week you guys wanted me to do it the other way. He wasn't saying that to deflect. He's telling his team, hey, listen, the situation played out this way this week, this way this week. I did it different both times. What's the common denominator?
We didn't execute.
Yeah. The common denominator was us. So the more that we tap into that,
well, it's kind of like
the better off everybody's going to be going forward. Then we don't have to bring up old crap.
Well, it's you're putting this thing out there that, hey, there's no magical formula that if we had done X, Y, and Z instead of Y, Z, and X, then we would have all of a sudden won the game. Because there's this sort of like old adage with, strength and conditioning and workouts and stuff like that. And it's everything actually works. To varying degrees, everything works. I feel the same way about offenses, whether it's basketball or football or whatever, like offenses, like everything works. It's how do you execute it? How bought in are you? How consistent are you? But everything really works. Like if you're going to the gym, you're going to get stronger. You're going to get in better shape. Like if you're actually working at it.
Yeah. Whether you like high weights, low reps, and I like low weights, high reps.
Whether you're a bodybuilder or a powerlifter or a CrossFitter or a runner or what, like you're going to improve physically. Now, you may have to tailor it to certain goals and things like that, but if you're working hard at it and you execute it, it's going to work. And that's sort of this concept that you're talking about where there's no secret formula. There's no secret combination of like, well, if we had just done this instead of this, and then that may put us in this position. It's like, no, if you execute, if you do what you're supposed to do, then it will work out more often than not.
Yeah.
Right.
I think the thing that makes football and team things in general so difficult is as there has to be this individual ownership on the most basic of levels for like a collective goal. So you're trying to make sure each integral part is maximizing in its 1 of 11, which we say all the time. Do your 1 of 11. Because I always, you try to tell people, like, if everybody does their 1 of 11, you get to 11.
Yeah.
Right? That's how many people play on what's my role independently from what everybody else is doing. But at the end of the day, what's the desired outcome? If it's gapping guys out, if it's getting here, like, so it's kind of an oxymoron, which is why
it's the ultimate team game, but you still have to do your job.
100%.
Right.
So everything that you hear with this staff, that's what it centers around. And I think to talk about it openly, you're just really teaching. You're not trying to hammer home a negative point because they're quick to say, hey, man, The past was the past. Don't put that on me. And then we'll turn around and say, oh, man, you know what? Usually the best form of a future indicator is past performance. But you have to have a starting point because there's a reason you have to get out of bed and try to be productive. Otherwise.
Well, there's also a difference when there is a clear demarcation of something changing, right? Like, yes, the past performance is generally the best indicator of future performance, given the variables haven't significantly changed, right? The variables from Frost to Rule have significantly changed. So even though the players are the same, like Bryce Benhart's a great example.
Well, what we talked about yesterday of one of the things, like if I was going to have pause, right? If I was like, okay, what could happen where this season may not go the way that I want it to? And I worked backwards, and I probably caught you off guard, but I said, I want to know how guys that have been here for a while that are now heavily counted on, have they learned enough in the short term?
This was about like Tommy Hill.
Tommy Hill, can he endure?
Yeah.
Ty Robinson, can he get to that consistency mark?
Nash,
Hutmaker, like, it's been like this. Can I get to this? Because remember, just last year, he said, man, if I was in better shape or I could close or what do I own in this run play that Iowa broke late? Like, are you driven by that? I don't, because the one thing that I did like was the individual ownership. He didn't put it on a double run fit or Bullock or he's like,
if I had done my job,
if I'd have done my job, we might not be talking about these two guys in the same fit.
Yeah.
The more you can do that, the more you can expedite the change in past behaviors. It's the individual accountability. I don't think they're speaking the negativity into existence. I think they're using it as a teachable moment.
Yeah, they're meeting it head on.
Yeah.
Coming up next, we will talk about quarterbacks at some point. We'll see.
Well, it starts with quarterbacks.
It does start with quarterbacks. I also want to get back to this idea of competition in the room. That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We're brought to you by our friends at Team Jack Foundation. TeamJackFoundation.org is where you find all the ways to get involved, volunteering. You can get news on what events are coming up. You can donate directly on the page, and you can find out why they're so committed to this cause of finding better treatments and one day a cure for childhood brain cancer. The current treatments are almost 50 years old and can be incredibly toxic long-term to the children, even if they survive the cancer. Team Jack Foundation believes there's got to be a better way, and they're working towards that goal. You can be a part of it too at teamjackfoundation.org. Wanted to get into.
I gotta answer Shane though.
What's up?
Because he asked me if I actually use the For You side versus following.
Oh yeah,
I don't. Periodically,
it like just flips.
Yeah. And I don't know why it does it on its own.
No, sometimes when you just open the app, it just is on the For You page.
But
and then
yeah,
it takes you a minute to be like, wait, this isn't. And then you switch.
I'm vibing with Shane though. Like, I don't know why anybody would do that. Although sometimes
be on the
people
For You side.
Yeah, but our guy like Bish sometimes will peruse the For You side just to see like what else
is out there.
Yeah. But number one, it's never current.
No, that's the problem. If it was current, like if it was in the same kind of timeliness as my timeline, I'd be more interested.
But
in
it does have some of my interest. So probably once every 2 weeks. Like, yeah, probably about once every 2 weeks, I'll see like, hey, am I missing anything that is something I would care about?
Yeah.
But no to Shane's question.
No, it doesn't purposely hang out on the For You side.
Shane's a good listener though. I kind of said that in passing.
I caught that and I was like, I don't want to derail what's happening here, but I was like, man.
Oh, don't try to be like Shane.
Are you just hanging out?
Come on, Shane.
Don't try to be.
I would never try.
Why are you trying to steal
I would
Shane?
never try and be like Shane.
You know what I mean?
You know what I'm saying?
That's Shane 402 _.
That's different than our guy Sugar Shane over here.
Yeah, Shane just I'm happy for you, Shane. I want to give him. I want to give him a hug.
He doesn't like hugs.
That's true. the awkward one he gave Schick was classic.
I know. I was like, man, you know him for like 20 years.
I think it was more awkward for him.
Well, he was trying to bring you in.
He was.
He was like,
He has kids.
and
It's
I was
used to
like-
him. That was on his. That was on the same level.
I was just like, man.
You
I
know,
don't
he was
know."
like, "I'll bring it in," and Shane was like,
Did the side hug.
Yeah, it was kind of weird.
Like you're
I
at
just
junior high
wanted to say,
camp.
I've been saying that for 5 years.
I know you have.
I wanted to get into the quarterback competition. I know that a lot of people maybe don't think it was a real competition. This was inevitable. I don't think that's true. I think it became clear how this was probably going to play out pretty early, but I do think everybody involved had a real chance. But the thing that I wanted to get to about this was I've been thinking a lot about competition since, we brought up the second string mentality that Coach Rule talked about last week. And
Since you're talking to one of the most competitive people on the planet,
you are very competitive. This is true. And then we've seen this play out at some other spots, and you hear him talk about how, yesterday how they're trying to get guys that you have a hard time keeping off the field, and it's just a numbers game where some guys aren't going to be able to play. And I wonder at quarterback specifically, because we assume this a lot, and including myself. I'm talking about myself here in this. We assume that a quarterback competition is always makes the guy that ends up being the starter better.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think that's a very common assumption. I guess I'm curious with certain types of quarterbacks, certain types of leaders, certain types of personalities. Have you noticed that a quarterback competition specifically, impacts different types of guys in different ways?
yes,
Because
not everybody handles the competitive arena the same.
And the reason I thought about it was obviously we had this thing with Dylan, and he gets named the starter yesterday, and Harburg is the only guy with any experience. And then you've got Kalen, who Rule thinks is a super talented guy as well, obviously. But I go back to, because, we talk a lot about Tommy Frazier when he took over as a quarterback as a freshman, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think Tommy had and obviously you know him way better than I do, but it seems like Tommy had a very unique personality that fit that moment.
Yeah, he got off to a ridiculously slow start.
Yeah.
He did.
And then as a junior and then as a senior, after he had established himself, ends up in a quarterback competition.
Had some more hiccups.
Yeah.
For as great as he was.
Yeah, he was in a legitimate quarterback competition, right? And so, but my question is, I've always assumed that competition made Tommy Frazier better.
Correct.
My question for you is, I guess, not just about Tommy specifically, but I guess that type of personality. Do you think they would have gotten there anyway, just because that's how they're wired?
Oh man. It's deep. Maybe.
I've been thinking about this a lot.
So, gosh, that's tough.
Because if anybody I can think of would have ended up there anyway, it's probably a guy like Tommy Frazier.
It was such a windy path.
Yeah.
He missed a lot of practices early in two-a-days. Not a lot. Like, I don't want to make it seem like. But I mean, I remember there was this heat thing and this wet towels and kind of bringing him along slowly. And he was behind Mike G. Roots was there. Obviously, Brooke was there.
But Brooke really wasn't a factor early, was he?
No. Which is kind of revisionist history.
Yeah.
Because he had to show some resolve too.
Yeah.
Right? Like to stay ready. Would T. Frazier have gotten probably? It would have been easy for him to go home. Like one thing I would ask T. Frazier, because not everybody has this frame of reference. Shoot, I should text. Like, I wonder if it's 2024.
If he leaves. Well, same question could be asked.
Because remember,
too, right?
he didn't play until Iowa State, and it was in a loss. And his fall camp wasn't like set the world on fire
during his freshman year fall camp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
AG's another one.
Mm-hmm.
His fresh, but they handled it differently.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like Fraze was a guy, he didn't have very many what I would call close guys early.
Mm-hmm.
So he minded his own business. Like he was kind of he was a little aloof.
Mm-hmm.
And the strongest personalities belonged to Mike Grant, and the offensive line, because Grant got along with everybody.
Yeah.
He was like the people's champ.
Mm-hmm.
And the offensive line, Will Shield, like these guys were like established, experienced.
Yeah.
And young guys didn't play the quarterback spot early. So T. Fray's impact early wasn't like, overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
He had to
a little bit.
Yeah, and he had to endure,
mm-hmm.
which he doesn't get enough credit for how he handled kind of the slow start.
Mm-hmm.
Would he have got I don't know. But you know what I do credit, though?
What's that?
I credit Coach Osborne a lot for knowing how to handle that situation. Because I look at...
There's a lot of ways it could have gone wrong.
There's a lot, not necessarily wrong, but a lot of ways he could have done it differently.
Yeah.
And I look at Coach Solich with how he handled the running back situation with how crowded that room got.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he read the room enough to say, hey, guys, settle down.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're acting like a bunch of hyenas. This is how kind of I felt like he felt.
Yeah.
He wanted a very competitive room, but we weren't good to Oman.
Mm.
And it was stymieing his growth.
Mm.
So he checked us.
Yeah.
Everybody. Everybody.
Yeah.
Like, man, hey, all for one for all.
Everybody.
We're all in this together. We're still young and relatively immature, and we're like, man, this dude isn't God's gift. Like, let's chill.
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell AG, like, every time I see him, and he can laugh now because he's wise, right? He has his own family. It's like, man, can you imagine how if we would have just acted better, how much better it would have been? I mean, we would make fun of balls on it. We were childish, man.
Yeah.
So I'm not sitting here telling you like because being a good teammate is hard.
Yeah.
When it could be it's just hard in general.
Yeah, but especially when it can be at your own expense.
Well, and it's not and that's like the ultra degree of difficulty because it's not even natural when it's not at your own expense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how many of us really genuinely champion other people?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's fair.
Hey, man, I hope you do well. Go get them. Hey, anything I can help you with?
Yeah.
And it couldn't have anything to do with us, but how many of us generally champion other people?
Yeah, because we're so focused on us, what's in front of us.
Which is,
we got the blinders on.
And why do I love the quarterback room? Why do I tell you I love the quarterback room when I said for 5 months I think they're getting the temperament right?
Yeah, because they're all kind of there for each other.
And when you can see quarterbacks do that, because we've heard all along QB1's supposed to be different.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to be the guy. When you can support one another and you get that room right, the sky's the limit.
Brian Edwards coming up next.
We will be back. We will be back. will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio. Now, Vegas insider, senior handicapper, and fan of the cold Budweiser bottles, Brian Edwards.
It's got to be touchdown, touchdown, touchdown.
Brian Edwards.
I don't really love it.
Brian Edwards.
The way they're using the cream cheese to butter the bagel.
Brian Edwards.
I'm going with the cowgirl.
Here is Brian Edwards.
Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior Stage. We are joined now by our friend Brian Edwards, our Vegas insider from Major Wager. What's up, B?
Uh-oh. Team mute.
We got the mic again. Oh, no.
Dude, I like his headsets, though.
I do.
Those might be new.
I don't know. I think I recognize those.
How about now?
There he is.
Are those new headsets?
Hello? Okay.
Can you hear us?
No, same one.
Oh, okay.
I can hear you, yeah.
Well, you gave me the profile so I could see the red, and I was like, ooh, he's big time. Are you a gamer? Do you like get on PS5 and like win in college football? Or
You know, man, my nephew, I kind of got back into it with my nephew when he was like 8 or 9, but he's like 15 now, so he won't even play when I go home. So no, I've retired from the game. I mean, I was good back in the day. Madden, RBI. I was 95 Colts with Marshall Faulk, 5 wide receivers.
RBI.
I would go 5 wide, and I would throw Harbaugh to Marshall Faulk, and I couldn't be stopped back in the 90s.
All I know is I'm glad Bailey can't catch because they went to Three Rivers in the playoffs and laid an egg. So to heck with that Colts team, okay, B? To heck with that Colts team.
Yeah, I remember that game, yes.
Yeah, I do. They wore those ugly all white uniforms, and I think I was 95, and I'm like, come on,
yeah,
man.
That was the game, wasn't it? Before they went to go play the
Harbaugh
Cowboys?
got his teeth knocked out.
Yes,
Harbaugh
he
got
did.
his teeth knocked out. And he had a Hail Mary into the end zone that I think would have forced OT or won it on the last play, but it came up short.
Well, God, but you give me a little trepidation. I know the outcome, so I should be fine. But hearing you say it again, I was like, don't catch it. Knock it down. I was like, shoot, man, I can't. Now I got to get ready to go to winter conditioning after this because I was in college getting ready to go into my junior year. I was like, fudge, what a letdown.
Oh, my God. You had just beaten the brakes off me like 2 or 3 weeks before out in Tempe. I'll never forget it. And then we're We're on the runway the next day, and we're all sweating, and like the air conditioning's not running. It's January, but we're in Phoenix on the runway, and the heat is just bearing down. We're all hungover, and like our plane didn't leave for hours. It was a nightmare.
You know the difference between me and you, be full disclosure, and I've never said this out loud. I think I slept in the bathtub that night.
With a bottle of champagne.
I'm 99.99% sure I had two legs draped over the bathtub.
That was one of your best nights and one of my worst.
The devil's in the details, though. All right. That's funny he said that.
Who's keeping track all these years later anyway?
I was like, oh, shoot, man, I got to brush my teeth to get on the bus. Oh, I'm a shower guy. Well, at least I'm in here anyway.
I walked right into all that, didn't I?
Yeah.
We're finally talking to you on a week that there's actual honest-to-God football games. Let's hop in. I know the headliners, Florida State and Georgia Tech. I know you got in on this one way back on one of the early lines. Where did you play it at? Where is it at now, and how you feeling?
Yeah, so I got plus 14 way back in June, but I was a little wimp about it. I didn't get much. I wish I had a lot, and then I'd be coming back. I'd be coming back with like 40 to 50% on FSU. And FSU did hit 10 early in the week, but it snapped back to 10.5 real fast. I see 11 at Caesars, but it's mostly 10.5. Now, the total was 56.5 last week when we talked. It's 55.5 now, which is only 1 point, but that's a huge move below the key number of 56 being a multiple of 7. So as the lines are now, I like the over. Haynes King creates offense with his legs and his arms, but he led the ACC in interceptions too, so he'll throw them to the other team. And I just don't think Georgia Tech's defense is very good. I got a lot of questions about FSU's offense, compared to how good they were last year. But, I mean, I think they're going to be able to score on Georgia Tech. So I like over 55.5. I would still slightly lean to Georgia Tech on the side, but 55.5 I think is the best play where the numbers are now.
Hey, let me ask you this real quick, B, as somebody that's seasoned and done this a long time. How difficult for you historically has week one been with the lines being out there so long that the sharps have been able to maneuver it? We're going to get into it with SMU, so I wanted a precursor. Like, with the movement and getting key numbers, how leery are you of when you should have gotten in?
Right. Well, I have not had a lot of success the last couple of years, mainly because Ravi's Knowles have been beating LSU, and I've had LSU back-to-back years in week one. And I had LSU in week one at UCLA a couple years back, or I guess 3 years ago now. But prior to that, I think I'd had a lot of success in week one. And I'm hoping I'm going to have success in week one. But, the numbers are moving. I mean, we know how close football season is getting because of the number moves. I mean, LSU moved from 6.5 down to 4 yesterday. I see it's bounced back up to 4.5. We've got A&M now up to 3. I think they snuck up.
If you would have got SMU at 20.5.
Right. And they were 27 2 nights ago. And then yesterday morning, they moved from 27 to 24.5. But like Damon points out, it opened at 20.5 or 21 at most books. So even though it's come down from 27, it's still way above. It's still past 2 key numbers in 21 and 24 from where it started. I don't love that game. I just know Nevada's bad.
And we both think SMU is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'll probably, I'll probably have minus 14 SMU in the first half and probably buy it from 24.5 to 24 for a little bit, but nothing major. Just because it's a standalone game, unless there's an FC. I mean, I think there's a couple of. No, I think it is a standalone game because Hawaii's late night.
So, B, as you don't have a ton of stuff for this week, What are some of the ones you're looking at early on for week one? You feeling your Gators at all, or what do you got going on week one?
Yeah, small opinion on the Gators at +3, which you can get at DraftKings right now. It's 2.5 most everywhere else. But my two, I mean, that's a small opinion on Florida. My two that I really like are Georgia and Virginia Tech, and you can still get them at 14 or fewer. Hopefully, get a 13.5. So Georgia's 46-2 straight up in its last 48. That's irrelevant when you're laying 14, but 36 of those 46 wins have been by at least 14. And I think we've got a major quarterback advantage from Carson Beck to Klubnik. And, I liked what Georgia did in the portal. They get London Humphreys, a good wide receiver from Vandy. They get Trevor Etienne, but he might be suspended. We'll see. And they get Ben Urasek, a Stanford tight end, as a 4-star transfer, #1 recruiting class, all that. I like Georgia to roll Clemson, and the national narrative to be from week 1 to week 2 what a knucklehead Dabo is for not using the portal. And then Vandy's going to be awful. I mean, I like Diego Pavia, 2-0 against Hugh Freeze, the transfer QB from New Mexico State, but he's going to be running for his life. Kyron Drones had a breakout year for Vatek last year. He had over 1,000 rushing yards before subtracting sack yardage, but still had 818 rushing yards, and he had a 17-3 TDI&T ratio. Vatek won 5 of its last 7, both straight up and against the spread. They won by margins of 17, 28, 26, 38, and 21. They only lost 12 Letterman, which I think is the lowest number I've seen in my Phil Steele magazine. So, I mean, they've got basically everybody back, and we're playing good late last year. And again, I just think Vandy stinks. So I like Vatek minus 13.5.
Let me ask you something about the NFL real quick while we've got you. 19 out of the last 21 years, the team has gone from worst to first in the NFL. And I told Ravi I felt like a safe bet. And I get it. Cincinnati's is a prime candidate. And maybe however you feel about the Bears. But is there a team you could see? It's the Patriots, it's the Bengals, it's the Tennessee Titans, it's the Chargers, it's the Commanders, it's the Bears, the Panthers, and Cardinals. Is there a team that you could talk yourself into that could go from worst to first to continue that 90% trend?
Were the Commanders one of those or no?
Yes,
no,
and I like the Commanders this year.
Yeah, I think Jaden Daniels is going to be awesome. Did you say the Chargers were last place last year?
Yeah. Do you know how many? The Chargers had 5 wins a year ago.
Wow. Yeah, I think they are definitely. Well,
I mean, they got the Chiefs, obviously.
Yeah, they probably have to have Mahomes get hurt on that. Yeah, my fault. I remember what division they were in very fast.
I thought the Chargers too, and I honestly it wouldn't shock me. Like the Chiefs were only 11-6 last year. Like they weren't crazy in the regular season.
No.
But Harbaugh does bring back the least production at the wide receiver spot of any team in the NFL. Even Carolina's upgraded.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll go Commanders though, because I like Jaden Daniels a lot.
And you think the East is a little messy right now, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think Philadelphia is going to be back to their early season form, but they were a mess late last year. So
that's our guy, Brian Edwards, Vegas Insider, MajorWager.com. B, we appreciate the time as always. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, fellas.
You're the man, B. Thanks.
We've got Michael Bruntz coming up next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. will be back. We will be back. We will be back. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and KFOR in Lincoln for this third hour. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, and we are joined now by our friend Michael Bruntz from Husker 24/7. Bruntsy, what's going on, bud?
Not much. How you guys doing?
We're good. We're good. Hey, so Bruntz, we kind of talk quarterbacks, but not what took so long, but more this. I want to know what you think about this. So I'm a big fan of, people should make environments. Environments don't make people. And I'm trying to convince Ravi and our listeners that I think part of the way that this whole quarterback announcement came about was I think Nebraska wanted to make sure that not only it was a competitive environment, but they prolonged the inevitable with the distractions and all the variables, right? I think Nebraska wanted to control as much as they could control before they turned Dylan out like, hey, free, go, run in the wild. Like
you mean before they took the brakes off the hype train?
Right. Like, is that full steam ahead, baby?
Don't you Like, I don't know if you're a Band-Aid ripper and you just go, but I think they wanted to make sure that they had trained him in such a way where the environment didn't matter. The media requests, the national shows, the people coming in for interview requests. Like, could I convince you that that was a thing? And if you say yes or no, does it have any merit if it's a yes?
Well, I think they were very measured with it on purpose. I mean, I think by delaying it, you know, the reaction yesterday was more of, oh yeah, like as expected, or, you know, as we, you know, that kind of thing. And that does, I think, kind of help to maybe kind of deaden the hype a little bit. I mean, it's going to be what it is anyways. I don't know that it was ever going to be a situation where they could just, you know, put the packets of put the packets for UTEP down on the media table, the depth chart in it. And here's, oh, look who's number one here, guys. Like, I don't think it was ever going to be that. But no, I mean, I think part of it too was, you know, when you officially label it, you also kind of signal to the other people in the group that are actually competing for spots on that list that it's kind of over. You know what I mean? Like that it's settled. So I think that was part of it. And maybe the way it was handled was, you know, as much as you kind of knew who QB1 was going to be, you still needed QB2 and 3 to be pushing one another behind him, and to have there be some kind of reason to compete there. So I think that was a piece of it too. But yeah, I mean, I think the way that it played out, I'm okay with, because, you know, you kind of knew where everything was headed, but at the same time, like, you know, you just kind of let things go about, you know, the way they are. And it kind of plays in too to the way that Rule does things, right? Like, you know, let's focus on today. We're not worried about next week or the week after that. I mean, I just think you needed to, you also didn't really need to just hand the keys too early. Like, you needed to let him get the license first. You can't just hand over the keys when he gets the permit.
Bruntz, you mentioned kind of the other guys in the room, Harburg and Kalen specifically, pushing both themselves and Raiola. How much do you think the way that this quarterback situation ended up playing out, even though we all kind of assumed all along it was going to be Dylan, has to tie in with this thing that we heard Coach Rule talk about last week about second stringers having the mindset like their first stringers? Do you think he was maybe trying to use that as an example for the rest of the team?
Yeah, I don't know if it was, you know, just because it was last week that he said that. I mean, I think that kind of, I think now looking back on it, yeah, I mean, I think you kind of have to do that a little bit. And I guess that's kind of what I was trying to get at in a really ham-handed way, was that, like, you need those guys to continue to compete. I mean, you don't want guys to say, I'm a second teamer, this is where I am, you know, this is my kind of reality now. So I think you kind of have to, you got to be careful with that and how you do it. And I think they, you know, by dragging it out, we're able to, you know, at least, you know, kind of hopefully give a little bit more, or fight against more of that thinking of, oh, well, you know, I'm the second team guy now, this is where I'm at, and be comfortable with that. So I don't know. And you know, I was thinking about it too. And I wonder, you know, I'm sure this probably wasn't even a thought over there, but I'm probably just, you know, painting my own thoughts on here, but it feels like the way that it was done. You tweet the picture. It's very, like, kind of minimal, whatever.
Wait a minute. My man is like this scenic panoramic view of, like, the back of his face, like looking at like, you don't think that was calculated?
But I mean, what I'm saying is that, like, the thing that they've said over and over again is that we need to be better around the quarterback, whoever it is, right? Like, you need to be better at wide receiver. You need to block better. You got to find some kind of running game with the running backs. Like, if it was going to be, Dylan, or it was going to, you were going to have to put somebody else in there. The offense being better around him has been, I think, a lot of the focus that they've really kind of tried to put out there this fall. And I guess, it kind of, in my mind at least, goes along with, this is our guy, we're throwing it out there. But at the same time, like, you got to be better around him. Like, as much as it's about him, I mean, it's about that whole group as well. And I think that's, you guys know how it is now. Like, there's a graphic for everything, right? You got graphics for everything. You got 200 cameras at every practice. Like, if they wanted to blow that thing up and make it a big deal, they could have done that, like, easily. And I think, the kind of understated way that they did it with, the tweet, here's our guy. I think that kind of falls in line with the way they're looking at the offense this year is, the quarterback needs to be better, but you need to be a heck of a lot better around him too.
Okay, so let me ask you something, Bruntsy. How would Michael Bruntz personally, whether it's 24/7 or maybe it's like leadership in your own household, I don't know, whatever. We have this mentality of, man, the secondary person kind of thinks too much like a secondary person. You need to think more like primary. Yet you have to pit that against, man, it's pretty competitive. There's going to be a lot of good players that may not play as much as they like. Is that message for the same people? And if it is, how would you handle staying in the moment?
All right. So walk me through this again. So
like last week it was, man, I didn't really like the twos. They think too much like twos. Like this whole next man up thing. Mm-hmm. But then yesterday it was, gosh, you know what? Like, maybe hard for some really good players to play because we have a lot of good players.
Yeah. I mean, you're as a coach, you're probably trying to make sure that guys are trying to be in that column, right? Of like, and you're hoping that guys embrace competition. I think, like, I think that's the hope.
Are those two different sentiments, or how would you mesh those? Because on the surface, they sound like two different things.
Yeah, they do.
I don't think they are though.
No, and I guess I don't know. I would hope that guys who were on the roster last year and saw how quickly you can go from not playing as much as you want to play to playing a ton.
Oh, yeah.
I would hope that guys, having gone through that, could be like, okay, like I can see this. I mean, you try to correct the attitude about the twos. I mean, Emmett Johnson's a pretty good example of that, right? Like, you go from being number 3 or 4 on the depth chart, and in a span of a couple hours, you're the starter basically.
Literally.
So,
and the only option.
Literally.
Right.
Yeah, that is
like,
a good one.
We can't have you returning punts in any kind of serious way because we need you to be our starting running back. By the way, you were with the Fours last week. Like that. Like there's plenty of examples from last year.
Well, how about Purdy?
Yeah, exactly. Purdy's a good one. I mean, you had guys on defense.
Wait,
that were the same way.
you're groin what? Up. You're up.
Yeah.
And now take a 70-yarder to the house.
Yeah. So I mean, I think I think they can be kind of the same idea at the same time. Like, if a guy is not playing as much as he wants to play, you've got the injury examples. I mean, I'm sure James Williams, the first couple weeks of the season, was not expecting to have the role that he had. Like, I think that's what this coaching staff can say is like, look, like, things are going to happen because of the way that we practice, the way that we play, where guys are going to get hurt. Also, if you bust it during practice and, play hard and show improvement, like they're going to find a way to get you on the field. I mean, this staff more than any other, I think is pretty open-minded to playing a guy that can help them, which, what a concept, right? But I think I would hope that guys would be able to realize that a little bit, that they're not far off from being able to contribute.
So, okay, I like that, because I think at the end of the day, what we're trying to say is, hey, man, you just better be the best version of yourself. Let the situation take care of itself. So here's the thing. Do you look at within the specific position groups differently? Like wide receiver may present a different scenario than, like, let's say D-line. D-line may think, oh, shoot, man, we're on a rotation. We're all going to play. You know, wide receivers may be thinking, fudge. Am I the sixth best wide receiver, or will they use the third best tight end to be the sixth wide receiver? Defensive backs may be thinking, that front line is pretty good. We ain't playing unless somebody gets hurt. Like, so it's kind of different for those groups. Do you look at it differently, or is the standard still the standard of, man, you know what, you better be the best you can be, period?
Well, I mean, I would hope that you'd want to be the best you could be, period. But I think the point is, I mean, if you're...
That's pretty myopic unless... Do you see how that could just be best case scenario? Like, you still have to, like, stay in the moment. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. No, I mean, like, but if you're the third guy behind big ass Ty Robinson, like, you're probably not getting on the field as much as, say, like, if you're the third tight end, which they're going to use. You know what I mean? Like, it's situational. So yeah, I think you have to fight that as a coach, probably, and that's probably, I don't know, where you earn your money as a coach, right? How do you get those guys to stay dialed in and being the best versions of themselves? I mean, that's why they write the checks over there, I guess.
Side note here, Bruntz, speaking of big ass Ty Robinson, was there any part of you, like, when you saw that photo of the single digit numbers, that was like, did he get photoshopped in later? Why is he so much bigger than everybody else?
Well, I felt like that about Singleton.
I was looking at him, I was like, was that like one of the, like, when The Office can't get the picture right of the entire group, and Kevin's 8 feet tall? I was like, what the hell is going on here?
I did that one time in a family picture. I was like standing way too far out from the group, and I moved myself in like 3 feet. But no, I mean, he's that big. I mean, that's the thing that has been kind of striking this fall camp, is just how much bigger Ty Robinson is than he was last year, and you know, looks like he's just, you know, a 28-year-old man playing with a bunch of 14-year-olds. Like that's just how he looks. So, and it's funny too when I've got a few photos I've used from availabilities where he's like standing next to Nash, who's, you know, 20 pounds lighter than he was last year,
but also a very big man.
Also, yes, very, very large himself, very big ass himself. I think
jeez,
it's very striking. And yeah, I actually thought they bookended that photo pretty well yesterday, all things considered. It was like you know, I don't know if they posed it just perfectly. Obviously, the numbers being what they are, they had to, but yeah, it worked out well.
It's not like Jamari was real small either. That was another one. I was like, oh dear God.
Yeah, that one is stretch.
Yeah,
it looks like a sidewalk.
Yeah. They basically, I was in my head, I'm like, did they give him like a wide receiver jersey? Like, is that the only one they had?
Is that Billy Kemp's jersey?
Yeah, we have a Westerkamp's jersey sitting around over there. Here, put this on.
We'll get you another one, but you got to do this for the photo.
Hey, Bruntz, if we're gonna do like what we do and we hang on every word that is said coming out of North Stadium, are we more or less encouraged on August 22nd about special teams?
I don't know.
Isn't it? I am so glad you answered it like that, because I don't have any idea either. Like, is it good or is it bad?
Well, I mean, and things have changed, because, I mean, when was it? Tuesday was the availability with Ed Foley. Like, in Matt Rule, it kind of seemed to imply that there was some question about how ready Tristan Alvano would be for the start of the season. And, you know, 3 days later, he's at 90%. So I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of the thought that with special teams, I just kind of need to see it. And it also kind of seems like, you know, you can kind of control what you can control in practice. You can dial up pressure, crowd noise. You can bring teammates in close so it's more of a pressure-packed kick. But I don't. It's really tough to recreate kicking on a Saturday. You know what I mean? So that's I don't know. I think it's probably the best way I can answer that question is we'll see. I do think, and I'm intrigued by the idea of Ja'Cory Barney potentially returning something, whether it's a punt or a kick. Like I feel like they might have something there, but it's it kind of remains to be seen if that'll happen. So my big long answer is I don't know.
I love the delivery of I don't know. We may have to cut that up when somebody asks me a hard question.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
Bruntz, I do want to stay on special teams here for a second because I was thinking about how Coach Foley mentioned, how Rule lets him use starters on special teams. Does that speak to you in any way about how either how much they care about special teams or how comfortable they are with the depth on defense that they, because we just talked about Emmett Johnson
or offense.
Or offense. We just talked about how Emmett Johnson is like, you're not going back there last year. Like so it has to be at least some of that. Like, how did you process that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think there's any fear on their part that they're going to use a starter or even a freshman, a talented freshman in a coverage role or on a block team or something like that. Like I think they're very willing to do that, and I think part of it's an emphasis on special teams. I mean, also Nebraska just has a lot of depth at certain spots that lead to guys playing on special teams. When you have as many scholarship defensive backs as Nebraska does, you're able to mix and match guys. You can put starters out there, but I do think it's something that they've emphasized since they've been there. Of why not put one of your best players out there if the depth situation is okay to go run down there and tackle a returner or something like that. I mean, as much as we're talking about chasing three and all this other stuff, a good way to make sure that you get those three and win tight games is being good on special teams. That's why it's the questions at this point in the offseason are still a little concerning because you need that part of the game to be better than it was last year, and that's the concern there. But I do think it's an emphasis. I do also think it's a reflection of depth that some of the guys don't have out there on special teams this year.
All right, shoot me straight, Mr. Pragmatic. When you watch this offense and you're plugging in quarterback play, what do you want to see? Do you want to see the consistencies of like converting 3rd and 5s or 3rd and 6? Or does Michael Bruntz want to say, gosh, you know what? It sure be nice to generate consistency in generating big plays.
I can't have both. Can I have both?
Well, it's seldom works. So you know why I asked the question? I go back to Taylor Martinez freshman year. And early on, it was big play after big play. And all I would tell people is, hey, man, once you get to conference play, I'm not sure how sustainable this is. So it's always kept me, and it's the coach in me too, right? Like, sure, I'll take big plays any way I can get them. But the truth is, they're a lot harder to come by. So, like, I'm just curious what you think your eye will gravitate towards that you think will be the biggest medicine to last year.
Yeah, no, I think it's the 3rd down stuff. I think it's extending drives. One thing that in limited viewings, again, we've seen some, not a ton. I'm eager to see if Nebraska can kind of get the short game going. Like, can you on time throw a ball in the flat to Jalen Lloyd who can go get you 7 yards rather than having to turn around and hand it off to the running back? Because I think that has to be a piece of Nebraska's offense. And I know everybody kind of gets a little cringy about the swing pass to the outside and how it's looked in the past. And rightfully so.
Be nice to complete it, though, right?
Yeah. No, or you guys not having to turn around and reach for it, that kind of thing. no, I mean, I'm curious to see if that part of it is part of the offense. And I think that Dylan has the ability to hit those passes at a higher level. I think to me, it's more the intermediate stuff that I want to see completed with more consistency, because it's been so long since Nebraska's been able to do that with any kind of consistency. So I'll take that over the big plays, but I would love an occasional big play, because you got to have the threat of that.
Yeah. Like teams that play for championships have explosive plays, but it's weird how they can they can make those critical plays on, the 4 or 5 times a game they come up to.
Right. Like I would love to be able to see Fedoni be hit, 15 yards over the middle on 3rd and 7 a couple times a game. Like that's what I would like to see. But I think you need to have the ability to hit the deep ball, but I think the more intermediate stuff is what I'll be watching.
That's our guy, Michael Bruntz, Husker 24/7. Bruntsy, we appreciate it as always, and we will talk to you next week.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate you, Bruntz.
That's our guy, Michael Bruntz.
I'm pretty sure we're over I think he knows he's funny.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I
think he's always known he's funny.
Really?
I've known Bruntz a long time.
I think he's kind of evolved into it.
At least
maybe he's great at the pretending humility thing.
I don't know if it's pretending humility, but it's being very dry to the point where you're like, I don't know if he's doing that on purpose or not.
Yeah, it's kind of.
That's kind of how Bruntz is. That's how I've always remembered him, at least.
So now we're on big ass Ty Robinson. We just call him Batty for short. Hey man, you see that play Batty made? Who's that? It's big ass Ty Robinson.
Well, don't forget about big ass Nash.
Dude, but is it just me? That one was stretched on Jamari.
We got Bat and Ban over here.
Verzal was Nash. Like, holy blankety blank blank. I'm like, he looks like $1 million.
A lot of them do. Coming up next, we will get to our Bet on It segment presented by Warhorse Sportsbook here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla, and it's time for Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook, the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets. We're talking straight bets, parlays, live in-game bets, props, whatever you can imagine. You can bet on nearly every major sporting event in just about any way you can think of at Warhorse Sportsbook. You can go to the Sportsbook in Lincoln or in Omaha and get that done. Warhorse Sportsbook, no bets, no glory. DB, what are you betting on?
Two things.
What's that?
One's kind of weird.
Okay. I like weird.
I'm betting on the fact that the offense took it personal with how they're approaching week one and this offseason, that they can't get single-digit jerseys.
Oh, okay.
Like, I'm betting on that.
Okay.
Like that's a problem.
You think like Isaiah Nair
and
Ramir Johnson?
And by the way,
you think Dylan Raiola would take it personally?
No.
Okay.
I don't think he would have been in the hunt. No disrespect.
No,
like,
I know, but true freshman. Yeah, I was curious.
Yeah.
I was curious.
But here's the other thing. I'm big into memorizing numbers, obviously. But it's for broadcast too, because there's only three things I like in front of me during a broadcast. I don't like it convoluted. I don't like it messy.
You don't like have 10 charts like some people do?
No.
Not hating on those people, but some people have like a ton of
stuff.
Like
I like to do a lot of work ahead of time. So I'm trying to memorize numbers. I'm doing that for UTEP too. And who gets 18 at Nebraska? Do you first of all,
There's
you
three,
know
right?
Who are they?
Prince Will?
Yep.
Nair?
Yep.
I don't know the third one.
He's going to play a ton.
Offense or defense?
Dead giveaway.
Okay.
Dead giveaway. Now that in itself is a clue. Dead giveaway.
I'm blanking.
Really?
Yeah.
Bushini.
Oh, duh. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So if I'd have said special teams.
Yeah. I don't know.
You would have been like, idiot.
You know what's funny is I just sort of forget. I sort of forget those guys have numbers. Like I don't
I'm
like process. You know what I mean?
Who's getting that number? You can do an offense-defense thing, but somebody's got to come off of it.
Well, who's getting 15?
Dylan.
Okay. So Coleman's changed his number?
Yeah.
Okay.
He may go to 11. He flirted with 81. He may go to 11.
Okay.
But I don't know how Demetrius feels about that. But Demetrius isn't
playing right now, so yeah. Okay.
That's between them. I'm not. I'm not trying to get that party started.
Somebody's got to give somebody a watch or something.
Yeah.
You can do that now with NIL.
Shoot, if I was Malachi, I'd be like, "Hey, man, donate to my organization."
Yeah, right.
Yeah, D-Bill would be like, "Come on, man, you're not getting my number."
Okay, so you're betting on the fact that the offense takes it personal that they were 10% of the.
Dude, they got to get past that.
Yeah.
At some point, because look at who got the offensive deals last year. That wasn't good.
Mm-mm.
Your best player was probably your honorary guy,
Piper,
and
then you had Billy Kemp,
who didn't stay healthy,
and Jeff Sims, who was an abject disaster.
Right. So my bet is that they take that personally. The other one, this is a little bit hairy, but I just like it because, of course, I'm a preseason junkie, and I pay attention to things like NBA Summer League and Spring League and NFL preseason. Yeah. There's football tonight.
Oh.
I'll give you a cheat code.
Okay.
Put my name on it.
What do we put our name on?
Stamp it DB. It's anywhere between 1.5. If you don't mind a little juice, minus 125. Bears will beat the Chiefs tonight in preseason. Your Chicago Bears.
Not my Chicago Bears.
Somebody's, because they're gonna win money in the preseason and exhibition, which is icky and dirty. And
your guy Caleb's not playing.
Yeah, I know.
None of their stars are playing.
I know.
Good teams are bad in the preseason, though.
Ooh, again,
so Chiefs would be bad. Like if you're betting on that,
take the Bears.
I'm gonna be honest. I can't bring myself to bet on preseason.
Most normal people can't. I mean, if you have any sort of sense, but believe me,
I tell you what,
there are several that feel like the preseason is stealing.
Oh yeah, no,
I don't know how.
I've met those people.
Yeah,
it never made any sense to me because there's too many variables in terms of who's playing for how long, all this kind of stuff.
We're gonna come back in the morning and be like, "Dang, DB, you should have taken your own advice." I was like, "Ravi, I'm poor. I can't."
I might have to go put a little scratch on it over at
not the 20 that we need to settle up on because I'm hungry. I think I have a spot.
You should, man.
I know you're trying to give it away.
You're like the least decisive person on this thing I've ever met.
I want to make it count, and plus in football season when I'm gone a ton, it's gonna probably have to not be for me. It's gonna have to be for the fam.
It's 20.
I want to make sure Micah eats.
Kid forgets his lunch all the time.
Yeah, what was that call? You know I'm at work.
Dad, I forgot my lunch.
It looked really good. It is so good last night. I like it.
No big deal.
Would it be real cool if you could bring that to me?
I'm like, look, man,
We're gonna be all right.
I need an oil change. I'm trying to keep my miles down. I'm
not
trying to make random runs to the high school twice. I'm gonna be there till 8 tonight.
Whatever the hell it is.
You know who's not forgetting their lunch at home, Micah? Larry Legend. He would never.
You know how he answered the phone? Hello?
Yeah. Is it weird? Okay, this is a weird question.
Oh, geez.
Is it weird when your kid's
you
voice
asked me
starts
like
to change?
Yes.
Because that's got to throw you off, right?
Oh, yeah. 100%. Well, I told you I hadn't talked to Caleb in a week, and he called, was that Tuesday?
Yeah, you talked to him twice on Tuesday.
Yeah. He's like, Dad, what's up? I was like, who the world?
I was just...
Because nobody calls me in the middle of the day anyway.
Yeah.
I'm like, who would call me at 2 o'clock?
What's that?
Like, I'm either at school or on my way to school.
Yeah.
This better be good.
Yeah. Do you ever have answer the phone or call him or whatever and be like, who is this?
I wanted to say that to Micah this morning.
Who's answering your phone?
But he's getting a little bit of acne from his helmet.
Oh, yeah.
So it's letting me know. This dude wears, I almost said makeup, medicine every day.
Oh, like the acne stuff?
Oh, this dude will have 6 white dots. I'm like, bro, feel free to rub that in.
You got to absorb a little bit, you know?
It's comedy. Zoe makes fun of him. I'm going to go in there and lay with Breeze for a little bit, except he may be mad if I say something about his face. All right, Ryder, go ahead.
I used to get that from like baseball hats. I get them like right here on the temples. You get the, I get a little bit now too because I wear a headband while I'm playing tennis.
I think it's a complexion. Like I feel like the more melanin you have, the less acne is a thing.
Yeah, I never had it real bad. But I would just get it in kind of spots when I had
he's team light skin, so
well,
he's
like me. He's only half.
Can't say that out loud.
Why not?
Because we talked about the whole chromosome thing before, right?
People have,
like X's and Y's and
like
alleles and
it's more complex than people think.
Yeah, it's not just like
just because I look brown doesn't
it's not
mean,
just like half.
Yeah,
it's just generational thing.
Well, half-ish.
So I can't stand you.
I mean, people look at me.
Oh, careful now.
People look at me and it's like, 100% brown. But then they see my mom. They're like, where'd that come from?
Who's she?
That's my mom. Are you adopted? Nope. People used to ask that when I was a kid, for real.
You weren't traumatized at all, though, right?
Well, I mean, I didn't really understand at the time, and I was like, oh, that's a little racist. now I'm like, You know what's funny though, because like my sisters are a lot lighter than me and my brother are. Like we all have like very similar facial like features and stuff.
Yeah, your sister and here could totally pass.
Yeah. But they're much like lighter skin than we are, and so they always assumed that those belong to my mom. But like me and my brother,
that's what we're on.
Me and my brother were maybe like came over from somewhere else, like an agency or something,
The FBI?
No. CIA is the agency.
Would you knock it off?
I'm like an adoption agency.
Shay?
We came by it naturally, though.
I was just gonna say,
you happy about Gardner Minshew?
if the Bears would win me money in the preseason, they could be my team all year long.
Who's winning that division? The Lions?
Probably. Like that's the safe bet. The Lions are the safe bet.
God, it smells delicious in here. What are they cooking already?
I don't know. I don't smell it.
God, that is fantastic.
Your nose is crazy.
This smells
like your nose is really good. You smell stuff I'd never even.
That is incredible.
I don't smell anything.
What's the special?
I don't know.
Did you not read the chalkboard?
I was looking at our ads on our
what is
stream.
today?
Today's Thursday. Oh, I don't know what the Thursday special is.
Shane, who's winning that division? Are you taking your Lions?
Yeah, you take the Lions.
Probably. It's probably. I mean, that's the safe bet.
How about BC saying the Commanders from worst to first over the Bengals?
So I can see it for the Commanders. Like I see the path there because I don't feel great about the East, right? Like if I don't feel great about the
which is weird because both teams, the Eagles and the Cowboys, could be in the Super Bowl.
Not buying the Eagles. Not buying the Eagles. Regression candidate.
You're such a hater.
Not buying the
Eagles. What is this?
Cut it out. Cut it out. Not buying the Eagles. Cut it out. That is Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook, best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets. Warhorse Sportsbook, no bets, no glory. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Matt Baker about college football and the Florida State Seminoles, who kick off college football weekend this Saturday in Dublin. We'll be back with more.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
7th play of the drive, 3rd and 3 from the 13, zone read. Travis will keep center step. Oh, what a move to the 10. Trot in there again. Jordan Travis, an ankle breaker near the 10-yard line. His second rushing touchdown of the afternoon. Touchdown, Florida State. Touchdown, FSU.
Wrapping up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're brought to you by Lawrenson Gardens. Make sure you get to lawrencegardens.org to get tickets so you can experience their garden games. Play all sorts of games, croquet, giant chess, badminton. Get your butt kicked like DB did by me while we were out there.
A fallacy.
Make sure you get to lawrencegardens.org. That ends, the garden games ends on Labor Day, so make sure you make it out there before then. Joining us now is Matt Baker from the Tampa Bay Times to talk a little college football and Florida State. Matt, how are you this morning?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So let's jump right into Florida State here because I've got this question that I've been wrestling with.
Why do you have such an affinity for Florida State?
No, I know why. Question? It's because when I was a kid, I was enamored by the helmets. Like, that's an easy answer. Also, Peter Warrick's the GOAT. I don't know what to tell you. But my question, Matt, is – sorry, that's a little personal aside between me and DB here. My question for you is, which do you think wins out? Mike Norvell's sort of reputation as this quarterback whisperer or DJ Uiagalelei and who he's been for the first 4 years of his college career?
I think it's Norvell. Look, I just trust the guy at this point. Some of it's the quarterback whispering, as you say. I think he's done a very good job with that. Look at what Jordan Travis was before Norvell got there and what he left as. That's honestly about as much transformation and growth as I've ever seen from one player in my career. And obviously a lot of that's Jordan. Mike gets a lot of that. But really, I lean here just on Mike just because it's not just DJ. This is a very coach thing to say, so forgive me, but it's everybody around him. What Mike is really good at is figuring out, okay, this is my chess piece. This is what he's really good at. I'm going to find a way to exploit that, to make this person do what he's best at and highlight that. Be that running back, tight end, a receiver who can play running back, a running back who can flex out, whatever it is. So I think Florida State's offense, I think, is going to be good enough this year. The pass game, I do have some issues there or concerns there beyond, it's not just DJ, it's the guys around him. But I think generally speaking, Norvell's ability to scheme it up and X's and O's and highlight his Jimmys and Joes, as the cliche goes, I think that's going to win out there.
So you mentioned some of the pieces around DJ on the offense, and I think people tend to forget that before Jordan Travis turned into what he did as a senior, especially, that Norvell was kind of known for these dynamic run concepts. Do you expect a return to that as they kind of de-emphasize the quarterback a little bit?
They got a heck of a twosome.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way it should be with this team. I mean, the offensive line is going to be certainly one of the best couple in the ACC, maybe one of the best few in the country. With a guy like Darius Washington returning on the offensive line, I think he's got All-America potential. But it's the players beyond that too, right? Like Roydell Williams coming from Alabama, he's a guy who can run hard. He's going to have a lot of potential. Lawrence Toafili was the MVP of the ACC championship against Louisville. He's from down in my area over in Pinellas Park. But he's a guy who's shown a lot over the years, not just his ability to run, but also his ability to catch. And again, do that Norvell thing where it's different ways to get him the ball. Jalen Lucas, though, is a guy that I'm really, really intrigued by. The transfer from Indiana, he's not the biggest. I think he's listed like 5'8" or something like that. But he's really, really quick. He's fast. He was a returner for the Hoosiers, and I'm not sure entirely how Florida State is going to use him. Probably in some different ways, like Norvell does a really good job of. But he's a guy that when he's in the backfield, he's got a chance to be really good too. So yes, I think this is going to be more of a run-based offense than we saw last year, and just because some of that's Mike's DNA, but also this is what this team should be really good at.
So Matt, what's your expectation level, or something or nothing with no Coach Atkins serving the suspension overseas with these guys as the OC and O-line guru?
It's not going to be nothing, but I also don't think it's a huge deal. I mean, yes, they are losing their offensive coordinator, but it's Mike Norvell's offense, right? Like Mike's going to be the one who handles that part. Yes, there's going to be a potential hit to the offensive line just because Atkins knows what he's doing. Again, we talked about transformation and growth. Florida State's offensive line before Norvell got there was awful, like historically bad, awful. They were able to overshadow it for a couple of years when they had Dalvin Cook, but after that, it was very bad. And it's gone to a point where it's not just acceptable; it's good to very good. So yes, Alex knows what he's doing, but I think it's not going to be like an earth-shattering loss on game day either, if that makes sense.
My partner, the resident Knowles fan over here, somehow he turned into a Skur Knoll. It's kind of this whole thing has weirded me out, but he's a little worried about replacing what they lost on defense. But with guys like Peyton and Marvin Jones Jr., who it's crazy because I played against his dad in the bowl game, and guys like Sion, like they should be able to get after the passer, right? They played a lot of bodies. They have good bodies.
Yeah, I think you're right. I have a couple concerns about the defense. Not even concerns. I guess slight concerns. Maybe we'll call it that. Because you lose Tatum Bethune, your leading tackler, and Jared Verse and Braden Fisk, who are All-America caliber players on the defensive line. But I think they're going to be fine. Josh Farmer and Daryl Jackson, the Miami transfer, they're going to be maybe one of the best couple defensive tackle tandems in the country. I'm glad you mentioned Patrick Peyton. I think he's going to be really good.
Me too. He looks like
I think it's going to be like All-American, like top 15 pick good, maybe better than Jared Verse. Just his frame, his size, he can get his hands up and deflect passes. I think he's going to be a star this year. So again, you don't lose a Jared Verse and not miss it a little bit. But I think Florida State's defense in particular, their front, I think they're going to be very good, not a huge drop off there.
So, Matt, I'm curious what you think of Florida State's sort of progression under Mike Norvell. Obviously, started off kind of slow the first couple of years, progressed, broke through last year. Do you think last year was more of lightning in a bottle, might be a little aggressive, but kind of an outlier, and you expect them to sort of return to that 9, 10, 11 range? Or do you think they can sort of sustain where they got to last year as they replace some important pieces?
I mean, I don't think they're going to go 13-0 if that's what the question is.
Sure.
Well, I have very few rules that I think that last in college football because so much has changed in the last couple of years. But one of them is this: teams very rarely replace an all-time great quarterback without slipping. And Jordan Travis, was he Chris Winkie or was he Charlie Ward? No, maybe not. But he was still one of the best couple of quarterbacks that Florida State has ever had. That statistically, there's no argument there. And you don't replace a guy like that without feeling it. The example I always use is Clemson. They had Deshaun Watson, all-time great quarterback. They had Trevor Lawrence, all-time great quarterback. In the middle was Kelly Bryant, where they dipped a little bit. So I think that's probably what Florida State would be looking at here realistically, unless DJ does better than expected, or the run game's even better, or something like that. You're looking at a team that started 13-0 last year, and now it's probably going to be more in that 10 range, maybe 11, something like that. But again, I still think they're going to be very good. I still think they'll win the ACC, and they'll make the playoff. And if DJ does kind of lives up to that 5-star billing, and if you see everything kind of click, I think they got a chance to win a game or two in the playoff along the way.
I get it. You got to stay in the moment and take one game at a time. But how much of this game sets up to not even be about DJ? And I get the fact that he may have to play a certain way as the season wears on. But with Georgia Tech, you seemingly have to limit Haynes King in terms of his rushing attack. And then conversely, have discipline enough to run the football, considering they gave up almost over 2 bills a game a year ago. How much of this is just about running the football and stopping the run?
A lot of it. I mean, the game has changed a lot over the years, but a whole heck of a lot of it is still blocking and tackling, right? And I think Florida State's going to be good on that, with blocking with that offensive line. And again, the strength of this offense is the run game. The where DJ comes in is, first of all, he can be an effective runner. I think he's big enough and he's got potential there. But really, it's going to be taking the chances when they're open. Pound the ball, pound the ball, pound the ball, throw it over the top. That's, I think, the kind of method behind the madness there, the theory behind the case, and why DJ made sense for Florida State. But yeah, I think with I don't think Georgia Tech's a great team. I think I've seen the line at 10, 11 points. That seems about right to me. So this shouldn't be a game where Florida State has to really open up the entire playbook there. But as they get later in the season, there's going to be times where the game will ride on whether DJ can hit those over the top passes, and more importantly, or as importantly, whether the receivers can come down with them consistently.
Now, speaking of which, let me get you out on this. How good or do you have a comp maybe, since you haven't had him since he's come from LSU? How good can Ja'Kai Douglas be?
Ja'Kai can be, Ja'Kai can be okay. Maybe better than okay. He was one of Norvell's kind of early recruits in that class. He has shown flashes of it. The Pitt game last year, when Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson were both out, Ja'Kai really delivered. But to me, the receivers as a whole, that's the weakness that I've seen with Florida State. Malik Benson, the transfer from Alabama, speedy. He's been fairly consistent, but there's a drop-off after that. And it's kind of surprising to me. But if they're going to get to where I think they can get, those receivers have to step up, and that's going to be the difference between whether Florida State wins the ACC or whether they're 9 wins, something like that.
That's right. It was Jaylen Brown that came over from LSU. Good call. Appreciate that.
That's our guy, Matt Baker from the Tampa Bay Times. Matt, we appreciate it, and hopefully we'll catch up again soon.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Forgot Douglas is out of high school. Brown is the transfer.
That is the show for today. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We will wrap up the week
somebody else
tomorrow with maybe DB or whoever he's pretending to be tomorrow. We'll see who it is. It's Hurrdat Sports Radio.
See you. Have a good day. Love you.